All right, there we go. We are live. What is up, everybody? Of course, before we get going, let me just check the chat here, make sure it's working on my end. Because a lot of times you start these things and the chat does not work. So if you guys want to drop something down there, we'll see if it is working on my end. Of course, the big news today, just before I was fixing to post this or whatever and get on, is that Elio Castroneves is getting ever closer to a deal to run the Daytona 500. All right, appreciate it, Philip. Run the Daytona 500, and it looks like the two teams that he is going to be either working with, it is either going to be Trackhouse or it is going to be the Money Team. The Money Team, of course, ran the number 50 with Kaz Grala for the Daytona 500 last year. And of course, Trackhouse has the Project 91 car. Now, of those two options, of course, I would lean toward, I would hope he would work with Trackhouse. Trackhouse is the more established team. Trackhouse had a winning season last year. Trackhouse was the second runner-up, or was the runner-up, the first runner-up, or whatever, to the championship with Ross Chastain. Daniel Suarez finished in the top 10 in points. I feel like that is a better program, a better organization if you want to do a one-off run at the Daytona 500. Of course, the case can be made for the Money Team, the number 50 car, if you get enough money, if you get enough backing behind it. And of course, Adam Stern is the one who was announced this news. He said he got it from Don Hawk or Dan Hawk. I can't remember. Basically, the SRX guy is the one behind the funding for this because obviously he had the deal with Helio Castronevers. So you would hope if he gets it with the Money Team, there's enough money and backing behind it that somebody like RCR or Colleague or somebody like that is really the one behind the scene preparing the car and giving him the car to run for that race. Much like when Ryan Preece ran the 15, yes, it was a Rick Ware car, but it was really a car that was a Stuart Haas car. So if he runs with the Money Team, the number 50 team, hopefully he runs the number only, and it is a car prepared by, RCR or Hendrick or somebody like that if he can't get the Trackhouse deal. But I really feel like I feel like they're going to get a deal worked out with Trackhouse. I feel like the Money Team is sort of a second option, and if it is a second option, I do feel like they will get it worked out with RCR or Hendrick or somebody like that to actually run the car if that is the case. So that is the big news. The other news is Adam Stern also reported that Fox is going to rotate the booth next year, and he also said it leaves them open. They're doing that to leave them open the option that if Kevin Harvick retires after the 2023 season, that he would slot in the 2024 season as the other anchor with Fox, with Clint Boyer and Mike Joy. So that leads me to believe that he is telling us something. Now, this is just me putting my tinfoil hat on, conspiracy theory. But that leads me to believe he might know some knowledge behind the scenes that Kevin Harvick maybe is leaning towards retiring, because that is a very specific thing to say about why Fox is rotating the announce booth again. So I thought that was very interesting. Maybe Adam Stern knows something that we don't know, and maybe he has an inkling. Maybe he's heard something that Kevin Harvick is leaning toward retirement and going to the Fox booth, because that was a very specific thing to add to the whole shebang or whatever. But that was basically the news that I haven't covered today. I guess I'll make a video for it tonight and post it tomorrow. But very interesting news, to say the least. All right, let's jump into the chat and see what you guys want to talk about it. RJ Bansman says, I don't see him with the Money Team. I think that the Money Team is just sort of like a backup option. I feel like the main negotiations are definitely going with Trackhouse. I do agree with you, RJ. But even if he goes to the Money Team, I feel like that would be an option that it would really be like an RCR or a Hendrick backup car. Like it wouldn't be completely the Money Team. But that being said, I feel like the main negotiations are going to be with Trackhouse. And if they can't get it ironed out with Trackhouse, then he'll go with the Money Team. Molten Race says the Money Team being up in the running with potentially getting Elio intrigues me. So yeah, that's one thing. Elio running the 50 car, like we know with the Trackhouse car, like I'm just going from buying a diecast, because obviously an Elio Castroneves diecast would be cool to have. And, anybody that gets in the Trackhouse car, if you're a fan of them, when they make their NASCAR run, that's going to be a really cool diecast to have. So from a diecast perspective, that number 50, although that paint scheme wasn't for everybody, that number 50 that Kaz Grala drove with the heat wave glasses. That paint scheme was really cool, and that was a really cool diecast to own. So coming from that perspective, it would be cool if he went with the money team, because they have a little bit of a more of aggressive styling on their paint schemes. Trackhouse stuff looks really good too. Let's see. One wise guy says, post your merchandise, bud. How many people bought a tank top besides me? That is a good question. I have not looked at it. Let's see here. Let's see. Stores. No, can't do it. They're trying to make me log in. I can't waste that much time on here. Yeah, they're trying to make me log in. I don't remember my password for. I've got it somewhere around here. I haven't looked at it yet, but it's the Bologna Burger Media Store at Spring. Used to be Spring Tees. It's spring.com now. So check it out if you want to buy merchandise. Everything but hats, basically. You got t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, stuff like that. So all that good stuff is over there if you want to check it out. Appreciate it, one wise guy. I forgot once again. I should have had the link pulled up so I could post it here, but I forgot. That's my bad. Molten Rage says, "Don't become Alex Jones, my friend." JK, yeah, it's all good, man. I'm not going that far out on a limb, ever. He's got some. That dude, he had some wild stuff to say. And some really wild stuff that was actually just not good. So, yeah, so I will not be becoming him. RJ got a pretty good laugh out of that. Ayrton Senna at one time said he wanted to race NASCAR. I really, because that was my favorite F1 guy as a little kid. I vaguely remember him. I barely remember him, but it really stunk because I just really started to get into F1 when he passed away in that wreck. But he definitely was the dude. And if he had raced NASCAR, that just would have been so awesome back in the day. Molten says, "I need that number 50 diecast. I really like that scheme." So yeah, no doubt about it. That was a really good. That Heatwave car was a really good looking car. Multicolored. It sort of reminds you of like a 90s car. Almost like a Days of Thunder feel to it, except brighter, if that's even a thing. But yeah, that was definitely a really cool car. Ace Rostein 49. I think I said that right. I bet there will be 5 flips next year. That's I don't know, man. Daytona and Talladega, you can basically guarantee that there will be at least one there, so that'll be 4. If you consider there'll be one at each track. I don't know where the other one comes from. Maybe Atlanta. But yeah, I could definitely see the car flipping because that spoiler. One issue with it is the spoiler on the back is just way too big. And the bottom diffuser at the bottom, that doesn't help things either, even though they've got mechanisms to let the air out or whatever you want to say like that. But yeah, this car, when it goes backwards, is much like the car of tomorrow because that spoiler on the back is so big, it catches a lot of air, and it seems like it would be easier to flip. So you might be right about that. I don't know. I really hope that it doesn't happen, but the way they built the car, it is what it is. And Molten's sort of on the same page there. Don't say that. Of course, obviously, we don't want to see anybody flip, anybody get hurt, but you do have a good point with how big the back spoiler is. If they get turned around backwards, it's more lift than downforce when it's going the wrong way. So bigger spoiler, bigger chance that that could happen. And Kyle Busch is going to win the Daytona 500. Ace, I agree with you there. I'm just going to call you Ace 49. I'm not sure I'm saying Rostein the right way. I do agree with you there. So I think that is a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because that's actually something I need to get to when I make my Daytona 500 predictions. I do think this is going to be the best chance Kyle Busch has ever had to win a Daytona 500. He's in RCR equipment. RCR is historically really good at plate tracks or super speedways, whatever you want to call them. Bad habit, old habit. I'm going to call them plate tracks probably for the rest of my life, just like I'm going to call the Xfinity Series the Busch Series for the rest of my life, just to force a habit. But I think RCR has always been good at plate tracks, and Kyle Busch has never won a Daytona 500, but he has always been very competitive at plate tracks. And I think this is one that he's definitely got. I mean, how do you not have it on your list? But he's got extra priority, extra emphasis on this because he's got his championships. He's got his other crown jewel track wins. He definitely wants to get that Daytona 500. I feel like for the rest of Kyle Busch's career with RCR, he is going to have his best chances to win the Daytona 500. And I'm picking him from here on out because I do think he will get a Daytona 500. I don't think he'll be one of those guys that wins everything but the Daytona 500. I think he will get one. So going forward, I'm doing what I did with Earnhardt for 20 some years or however long it took him. I'm picking Kyle Busch as my favorite to win the Daytona 500 every year from here on out. Also putting that mix Kyle Larson because I think he's going to get him one eventually. I think he'll eventually figure out how to be a super speedway racer one day. RJ Bansma 68 says, do you sell hoodies too? I do have hoodies on the website. They are not the website, on spring.com. It's Bologna Burger Media at Spring. So check it out. If you Google it, you should be able to find it. If you look at my last post that I made, actually I might have the link over there. So it's not going to let me pull it up. But if you look at the last post, not the last video, but I have things where I post on Facebook, or not Facebook, on YouTube. If you look at the last post, it's got actually links to that store. But at the end of this one, I will try to find the link for that and post it. So at the very end of this live stream, there will be a link to get to the merchandise store if you can't find it via Google. Because I'm pretty sure it's hard to find because it's just a Spring T location. Eventually, when I get to 10,000 subscribers, if I ever get there, they'll let me start posting it at the bottom of the actual videos when you're watching them. But I'm not there yet. Maybe one day. But yes, I do sell hoodies. T-Van, what's up, buddy? Both the Default and the Connor Daly 50 car both looked amazing, says Molten Rage. They did look really good. No doubt about it. Chase Elliott fan says Elio or hello. Oh, yeah, got you, man. Chase Elliott fan, what's up, man? Good to have you on here as always. Marion Miller, did you watch France's interview on with Dale Jr. on his podcast? I've seen the clips, so I have watched the clips, and to me, it felt like I haven't listened to the entire interview yet. I've caught a piece of it, but haven't had a chance to finish it yet. To me, it feels like he is angling for some positive public sentiment, and it feels political, like he is trying to get back in the good graces. Now, you can put your tinfoil hat on and be a conspiracy theorist. Does he sense weakness in the current administration, and is he trying to essentially run a positive campaign to get his name back in good graces and try to get a position of power within NASCAR once again? I don't know if that's actually his end goal, but this definitely feels political, like he's trying to spin it to have positive, get people to think positively about him and his reign as the head guy at NASCAR. So that's what it feels like to me. I don't know exactly what his end game is, but it just felt very political, like he's trying to spin it in his favor to get positive press. T-Van, I'm going out on a limb with this comment. I think RFK comes back to Xfinity series with Deegan as the driver. I think Keselowski would be stupid not to. That's a good point. Nobody's actually brought that up. But RFK, historically, when they were Roush, they had one of the best Xfinity teams of all time. And they would be foolish not to take some of that Hailie Deegan money, because I think Hailie Deegan can definitely drive an Xfinity car. Now, what that deal with Ford actually entails, we don't know. Is she actually linked with Stewart-Haas? Because so far, it seems like it's been a lot of Stewart-Haas support for her. Or is she linked more so with Ford? Because if she is linked more so with Ford, it would make sense for RFK to go back down to the Xfinity Series, reestablish their Xfinity Series program, and put Hailie Deegan in a car. And then you could have sort of like the backup car where Keselowski and whoever else wants to can jump in that one and run it from time to time. And another thing, Hendrick is going to run a car, that 17 car that they ran last year. They're going to run that again in select Xfinity races next year. So I don't think it's unheard of for anybody to think RFK would do the same thing, and also put Hailie Deegan in a full-time car over there because she brings the funding. Marion Miller says, by the way, good evening. Good evening, Marion. Hope you're doing well. Keselowski just announced he is doing the Chili Bowl for the first time, I believe. Says T-Van, I don't know about the Chili Bowl, but I did see where he's going to run the Snowball Derby, a super late model in the Snowball Derby. So that's going to be really cool. Eric Jones is also going to run in that. I hadn't heard about the Chili Bowl, but if he does the Chili Bowl, that'll be cool. But I do know he's running the Snowball Derby, and so is Eric Jones. So there will be 2 NASCAR drivers in the Snowball Derby, which is just a super late model race that they do in Florida. It's a really, really big deal. It's actually where Kyle Busch found Eric Jones, and that's how Eric Jones got promoted. He beat Kyle Busch in that race and raced them head-to-head, raced him clean, and beat him. So that's actually how Eric Jones got found. So it's a pretty big deal in the late model, super late model community. Any type of short track, circle track, asphalt racing. It's one of the bigger deals of the year. Mark Wachowski says Hamlin won 3 times in a JGR car. Kyle has never won because of circumstances, not the car, says Mark Wachowski. 100% agree with you, man. And that's not to take anything away from Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin is one of the best plate racers out there. But Kyle Busch is a really good plate racer as well. And if he could ever get somebody to work with, and also factor this in, he's actually going to have a ton of Chevrolet teammates to help him. Whereas with Toyota, he did not have, he had the 4 Toyotas for most of his career until recently. We've got, 2311, and then the 1 year where they had the 2 furniture row cars of Eric Jones and Martin Truex that particular year. Molten Rage says, me, Cole Custer, ice cream truck theme randomly plays. Me, where is that coming from? And why is it playing ice cream theme? All I said was custard, not ice cream. What the hell, world? So there you go, little Cole Custard, frozen custard action right there. RJ says, I feel like Hamlin will leave JGR with the 11 after 2023 and take FedEx with him to his own team. David Land believes that too. So I don't know if David Land has heard something. He's privy to some information we don't know about, but that David Land is on that train. So I could definitely see that happening because he usually doesn't speculate out of nowhere. He speculates, but he usually has a basis for it. So it wouldn't surprise me. And FedEx could come back. I don't know. I'm just saying it doesn't look good for FedEx right now. They got a new CEO. They're not doing as good as they could be. And a new CEO probably wants to make things look good. So he might pull all the sponsorship. He might pull half the sponsorship, or he might follow his predecessor, Mr. Frederick Smith, and just say, hey, we're in a recession, but we're going to keep sponsoring all these. I'm just leaning toward if I was a new CEO of a company, I would want everything to look good. Me personally, as much as I love NASCAR, I would pull it until we start doing better financially, and then I would come back later when we had everything in a row. But I've never been a CEO of anything, so it is what it is. That's just how I think about it. I don't know how they think about it, so that's just my speculation on it. They could possibly go back to like half funding or pull out altogether. Marion Miller says, oh, heck yeah, that's all it is. He ruined NASCAR. Oh, no doubt about it, dude. Brian France, like he went to the playoffs, and it's been, or it was the chase back then. We went to the chase, and it's not been great since. So for various reasons, but the chase being the one that a lot of people agree with, wishes they would change. T-Van, if you watch Deegan's latest videos, she says she couldn't race her micro because she was in meetings with Ford and shooting a commercial. So there you go. She's got it locked up somewhere with somebody. The big rumor that everybody seems to agree with is it's going to be the 07 green light car, but you never know. You never know. London, England, Elio to the 91. That would be hopeful. Like I said, Adam Stern broke the story today that it's either going to be the 91 or the 50 of the money team. So I feel like obviously they want to go with the 91 at Trackhouse, but I feel like the 50 is a backup plan. And if they get that 50 car, it would obviously most likely be funded. It would just be like a secondary Hendrick or RCR car, in my opinion. But that's just my thoughts on it. I don't think it would be a full money team car. It would just be, money team. They're running the money team's number, giving the money team some money for the number, and then running an RCR or Hendrick car. RJ Bansma says, Mary Miller France didn't even want to tell the truth about the situation between him and Jeremy. I feel like that's going to be a lot of PR. Like, I haven't made it through all of it, but I just feel like it's a big PR thing to get people to like him, and he's just going to put a positive spin on all of his failings, in my opinion. And even the ones he owns, he's going to own it in a way that makes you feel sympathetic to him. So it is what it is. T-Van says Snowball is the one. So there you go. I am excited about the Chili Bowl as well, but definitely the Snowball. That's going to be exciting. Hopefully some more Cup drivers jump in that thing and race it too. But definitely we got Eric Jones and Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski's father-in-law, of course, is a late model guy. So it's not super surprising that he would jump into it. But a lot of people were surprised that he's going to race that race. So really cool, really cool. I like it when guys come back and race. lower divisions, local short tracks. I think it's really cool. It's a big reason I like Kyle Larson. It's a reason I like Kyle Busch, other than their strong first names. But I like guys that come back and race other stuff. Alex Bowman's another one that does that. Absolutely, RJ. He didn't really answer any real questions. Says Mary Miller. Yeah, that was another criticism that I've seen a lot of people have. There were nothing but softball questions. They felt like Dale Jr. and Mike Davis didn't push him on anything, which could have been. It could be one of those deals where it was arranged beforehand, where it's like, hey, if you guys push me on anything, I'm just going to get up and leave. So I don't want to necessarily blame them. It might have been something that was negotiated before he sat down. Obviously, if somebody tried to negotiate something with me like that before they sat down with me, though, not that I've done a ton of interviews, but I wouldn't go for that. I was like, hey, look, I'm going to ask questions, and if you don't like them, you don't have to answer them, but I'm going to ask them. So it is what it is. Robert Stone says JGR is the new Roush. It does seem to be heading in that direction. For sure, that they were Roush was the most dominant team for about a long time. For like 4 or 5 years, they had the most dominant cars, and then they fell off of a cliff all of a sudden. And if JGR does that, it would not surprise me. Obviously, they've had a downturn here recently, and with this new car, their stranglehold on Toyota has sort of been loosened up, because you don't have to buy your chassis from Joe Gibbs Racing, and TRD makes all of the engines. So sort of their stranglehold of, if you go to Toyota, you come through us. That's no longer the case, especially with 2311. So there's a lot of things that play a factor into that. RJ says, Mary Miller, there's a lot of corruption, like with the NCPD around the time they raided Jeremy. Yes, that's another thing. I don't think that story will ever be fully flushed out. We'll get Jeremy Mayfield's side and we'll get Brian Francis' side, but we'll never get that third side, which is the actual truth of what all happened there, because it just seems like a lot of corruption happened there, and I'll leave it at that. Haley Deegan is running out of time, and if you think Danica struggled in Cup, watch Haley. Yeah, but I feel like Haley's younger, and she's doing it the right way. She's not rushing up the way Danica rushed up, so I don't know. Robin Mark says, take off, eh? Howdy from Canada. What's up, Robin? Good to have you. What's up, Canucks? All the Canadian viewers, good to have y'all on here as well. Moulton says, remember when we had a certain driver who was always 20s off the pace and potentially wrecked half the field every time on super speedways when the pack gets to him? Cough, cough. Quint Huff, cough, cough. Quint Huff. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. He was out there chasing his dream, and he did the best he could do. Mark Wachowski, the big companies don't need NASCAR. That's true. That's a good point, Mark. Going back to the FedEx deal, that's the big deal. So FedEx, I don't think FedEx sponsors NASCAR because they necessarily get a payoff from it. I think they sponsor NASCAR because Frederick Smith was a NASCAR fan. He just liked NASCAR. He liked Denny or whatever. And that's what I'm talking about with this new CEO. Does the new CEO have that same love for NASCAR? Now, obviously, the PGA Tour, I think they get more out of that sponsorship than they do from NASCAR. So I could see them staying with the PGA Tour, but this is just my opinion on it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just looking at the financials. They lost $11 billion in market share. They didn't lose $11 billion. They lost $11 billion in market share, which is a big chunk. But, you know, if they've got basically a whole year to right the ship, figure out what they want to do going forward, anything can happen. But I just feel, as of right now, like if they had to make that decision today, I feel like they would probably, at least as a new CEO, pull back and go to half or whatever. Because like Mark said, most big companies don't need NASCAR. They're sponsoring it just because they like sponsoring a sports team, which is what a lot of big companies do. Like you see it in the NBA, the NFL, like same deal. Mary Miller, so agree. Mark Deegan is just a sponsor driver. She is for now, but I feel like she can definitely improve that for sure. Marion Miller says, you're the CEO of Bologna Burger. Yeah, I'm the CEO of myself. One employee as of right now. So pretty easy company to run. There's no arguments. And if there are, they get settled pretty quick. Chrome Diesel says F1 2022 season came out to end. Not much motorsports to look at until the Chili Bowl. Yeah, that's true. There's going to be a few like local things that'll be fairly big, but there's not much to look at after that. And the F1 season, as far as points go, was over a long time ago because they do season long points. Even though they are the number one growing motorsport, and everybody talks about, oh, we can't do season long points because nobody will watch the last races. Everybody watched the last races in F1, and the championship was already decided. But I digress. RJ Bansma says, which former NASCAR driver would you like to see return to the sport? I'd like to see Newman make a return. Ryan Newman would definitely be up there. I'd like to see Carl Edwards run a few just to say goodbye to the fans. I think that would be really cool. Who else? I'd like to see Matt Kenseth make a farewell tour because I don't feel like he got an actual farewell tour. I think he's another guy that sort of got forced out in the same way Newman did. And of course, Carl Edwards was another one. I don't know. There's several I'd like to see in there, but those would be the ones off the top of my head. Obviously, Dale Jr. and Tony Stewart, I'd like to see them make another start or two, just because it would be cool. I don't think they have anything to prove, and they've already had basically their farewell tours. Mark Barnum says, Marion, she may be a sponsor driver, but has already made more money than you or I ever will make, LOL. Yeah, if you just consider her a YouTuber, she's had a successful career, right? Her YouTube channel by itself is successful. In its own right, 500,000. She's up there almost. I think she's either got more or just as many subscribers on YouTube as Dale Jr., which is pretty funny. Ty Gibbs will one day run JGR, says Mark Wachowski. I think you're right as well. I also think that's probably going to be a long way away. And I think the more important thing going forward is who they put in these leadership positions at JGR, because I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to look at as well. Marion says, let me rephrase that. I think Dale actually asked some serious questions. Brian France just changed the subject. Yeah, I agree with you. And he didn't follow up on them or push on them. And that's been a criticism a lot of people have had. Dale Jr., of course, not an interviewer by nature. It's something he works at to get better at. And he doesn't want to offend anybody either, because he's just that type of dude. He doesn't want to make anybody mad. And that's just his personality. So he's not going to push back on questions like that. He's just going to ask the question. And if you answer him, you answer him. If you don't, you don't. He's just going to roll with it. Because he's just kind of laid back on that show as far as that goes. So I'm not going to blame him on that. I don't think Brian France would have sat down with a journalist that sort of would push on him. I'll put it that way, though. He knew Dale Jr. would take it easy on him because he knows Dale Jr.'s personality. Mark Wachowski says, "Why spend millions on a race car when you can watch it?" I mean that's a fair point. Robin Mark said FedEx is hurting, layoffs, canceled flights with lower shipping demand, recession fears, etc. Thumbs up, people. Yeah, I would if you want to hit the like button, I would appreciate that. Losing 11 million just helps their taxes. 11 billion in market share, Mark Barnum. But yeah, for sure. Like the company's not going to fold anytime soon. And even if they did, they would just get bought out by somebody, most likely Amazon. So I don't think they're in like dire trouble. Oh, it's not on fire. They're not going to fire everybody. But they definitely didn't hit their Q1 projected earnings and stuff like that, and it's hurt them and it's put them. The best article I read about it was it has lowered the ceiling of expectations for what they want to accomplish the rest of the year or whatever like that. So I think that's the more interesting, or their last quarter. I shouldn't say Q1. They didn't hit their last quarter. Well, they were way off from their last quarter. So it is what it is. Let's see. Quinn Hoff is a nice guy, but he's not a driver. He's made too many countless mistakes that could not have been there if he just wasn't on the track. It's just my opinion. Oh, you're good, Molten. I think he's another guy. Oddly enough, he's a guy you could consider him being rushed up. He is a nice guy, and I think he loves driving, and he's chasing his dream. I think you could consider him as a guy who was rushed up too quick, and I think he rushed himself because I think he got a chance to get into a race car like a lot of us would. Let's just think about it as yourself. If somebody offered you a chance to get into a NASCAR Cup Series car and you could do it, would you not do it? Like, I mean, I think that's what his eyes got big because he got that opportunity and he took the opportunity. And I can't blame him for that. He tried and, he wasn't successful. But unlike a lot of people, he can say, hey, I tried to achieve my dream. It didn't work out. And let's be honest, the guy's still young. He can still get back. So if he puts in the time at the lower levels and gets the experience that he needs, he could definitely be back up there one day. Let's see. Ryan Newman should return. He didn't get the send-off that he deserved. Molten Rage says, I agree with you 100%. Michael Honeychuck says, Chief Eating Officer. I've been CEO my whole life. Me too, at least after my mid-20s for sure. SRS needs to do a 6 to 8 winter race season. The SRX, I got you. T-Van says the SRX needs to do a 6 to 8 race winter season. No doubt about that. That would be really cool. Like you could have the SRX summer and winter champion. That would be really cool. We can all admit we miss Carl Edwards' backflip. Ross, who was it? Daniel Hemrick does the backflip sometimes. So we do still have a backflip, but Carl Edwards for sure. Miss the old backflip. Miss old cousin Carl. He had a couple of years where he was sort of difficult to deal with, but then he came back to his senses and returned to old likable cousin Carl. And that's even his fans will tell you that. So I'm not taking shots at him or anything like that. Everybody liked Carl. Florida races year round, dirt, asphalt, plenty to watch. Yeah, for sure. They've got a good weather situation for that to happen. And also you got the Freedom Factory down there. They're doing plenty of good stuff there all the time. So really cool there. Mark Wachowski says, if FedEx is hurting, I must be in real bad shape, says Mark Wachowski. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They've got enough money in their coffers that they'll be good for a long period of time, even if something terrible happened. So I don't think they're hurting, but according to their CEO, it was the European and Asian markets that were lagging behind because of shutdown restrictions and things like that. That's really slowed them down. I don't think they've slowed down in the United States, which, as people have pointed out, they have had with their previous CEO, and that's what I'm saying. Their CEO is the wild card here because he's a new CEO. Their previous CEO has sat out recessions and continued their sponsorships. So if he follows that model, then I would expect them to be back. But that being said, you never know with a new CEO what they're going to do. So it is what it is. Michael Honeychuck says China market is bad. FedEx and DHL do most of the shipping. So there you go. That's the market share that they've definitely lost. Is because of the restrictions over there. And obviously, I don't want to say too much about that because I don't want this thing to get buried any worse than it's going to get buried. So I'm not going to talk about that too much. Elon will buy FedEx, says Mark Barnum. We probably just got buried just because of the name I said right there. So we'll just roll with it from here. F it. Ryan Newman is a NASCAR Hall of Famer. Try proving me wrong. I genuinely think that he's a Hall of Famer with his achievements. Just remember, he used to be called the Rocket Man. He dominated qualifying. Yeah, Ryan Newman was the man. If you remember, the first half of his career was amazing, and then he just for whatever reason, be it he got to a thing one point or another, where he didn't. Like he was sort of the Neil Bonnet the second half of his career. He got to good teams at the wrong times. You could look like. Then he had the Renaissance with RCR where he almost won the championship. So that was really cool. He's a heck of a driver, and I really would love to see him back, even if it's just part-time. I really wish he had taken Roush's offer of running a part-time season, but he said he didn't want to do that. He wanted to run full-time, whatever he was doing, whether it was NASCAR or whatever. So hopefully at some point he will take a part-time and say goodbye to the fans properly. But he still got it. He won the first race back at North Wilkesboro. He won it in a modified, which was really cool. Camaro 50 says, and to get to the Elon will buy FedEx, LOL, Mark Barnum. He might. He's crazy. He's got his hands full with Twitter right now, though. So we'll have to see what happens. We'll never know what that guy's going to do. Camaro 50 said, I'm an aircraft mechanic that worked for an air freight company in the late 90s. Air freight had ups and downs, just like the airlines. FedEx is in a downturn, but they'll be back up. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Camaro 50. And that's all I'm saying. Like, I don't know if this CEO is going to be as hard-nosed as Frederick W. Smith was. His name's Raj, and I can't say his last name. It's like Surnabrium or something like that. But he's the current CEO, and he's fairly new. He was either this year or last year he became CEO. So it just depends on how he wants to navigate that. Does he want to sponsor stuff in a down year? If he does, he does, and he's just following Frederick Smith's example. But if he doesn't, it wouldn't surprise me because it's the responsible thing to do. You know, you just don't sponsor people when you're having a bad year, and then when you're having a good year, you come back and sponsor them. So that would be that's all I'm saying. It just depends on what he wants to do with that. With NASCAR removing stage cautions from road courses, approved stage racing doesn't work outside of the non-points expedition races. Yeah, yeah. I agree with that, and I think that's the reason that I would love to see. I would love to see actually heat races to set the field, and we just do away with stages because you got your two heat races, and that would cover your two breaks that you want to get to give the fans a chance to get popcorn, let the TVs play commercials, so you get two breaks at least in both of those heat races, and then you also still get your 500 laps, but you actually get three races for the price of one. And if you remember back to the LA Coliseum, Clash at the Coliseum, if you remember, the most exciting thing about the Clash of the Coliseum were the heat races. So if you do it like that, there's a chance that at sometimes the heat races are going to be more exciting than the actual race. So you've got three chances of putting on a good race. So I would like to see them throw the stages in the trash can and go to heat races, and then for road courses, do F1 style qualifying, and then just race a full race with no breaks in it, so you can get the absolute maximum strategy on a road course. Mark Wachowski says the haulers and motorhomes are expensive extras, and maybe the sponsors don't like paying for such luxury. That's a very good point. Back in the day, you showed up, the team rode in a van, and the car was brought in a hauler and a truck, and that's the way it was. And for the longest time, it was an open trailer. Basically, it was a ramp. They called them ramp vans. It looked like a wedge, and you just drove it up there and locked it in, and then I even remember that, like in the 80s, they still had sort of like a bread truck looking thing that would bring the what do they call them? It's sort of like an Isuzu, I don't know, Isuzu Cub or something like that. But it wasn't until the 90s that you started seeing these super huge haulers and motorhomes. Like even Dale Earnhardt, he had they called them Mark III luxury vans. Like he was just sleeping in the back of a Mark III luxury van in between sessions there, eating slick meat sandwiches, which is unfried bologna on white bread. In the 2022 Daytona 500, Cole Custer was projected to get a top 10 finish. He was seventh, but then he had to hit pit road because of stupid fuel gauge was giving off the wrong information, which cost him 2 laps. So there you go. Cole Custer could be a threat for the 2023 Daytona 500. If they give him a chance to get in there, but also, Ryan Preece in the same car. What can Ryan Preece do in that same car? So we'll have to see what happens. I do wonder if they're going to give Cole Custer sort of like a free shot at a Rick Ware car, because he is pretty good at super speedways. Hi guys, I'm back from the election news, says Douglas Serrano. Good luck with that, brother. Who's going to win, Ryan Blaney or Chase Elliott? That's clearly the election you're talking about, right? Douglas, that stuff will rot your brain, says Mark Barnum. Do we know what Kyle's new sponsor is? Lenovo is one of them. I haven't heard anything beyond that. Somebody told me they heard Cheddar's, and it was announced weeks ago, but I looked for it and I couldn't find where Cheddar's was announced at all. So I don't know where he was getting his information. Maybe he's got some super inside scoop that he heard something about 2 weeks ago that the rest of us are not privy to. But Lenovo so far is the only one that I know of. Chrome Diesel, I used to work at FedEx Freight as a truck driver, quit in 2018. The issues they have is trucks not being reliable due to complex electronics plus the engines. I had a buddy, Chrome Diesel. I had a buddy that worked in logistics, and he said that's the worst job he ever had. He's like he would never work at FedEx again. So he doesn't like the way that it's organized at the top, like the structure of how they organize things at the top. So it's like anything else. I worked at a factory, and I loved working there. Like if it hadn't been for everything going on, and basically they fired me with everything going on because they sort of they reacted how they reacted, right? Nobody knew how to react with everything that happened. So I got fired, but I would have probably stayed there for a while. I was building a food truck, and I had plans on leaving, but like if I hadn't, done that, and the food truck never got built, so don't at me with that one. Well, it did get built, but I'm selling it. Put it that way. YouTube took off, and it's more fun than a food truck. So, but the point of that was people either liked working at the factory or they didn't, and I think FedEx is sort of the same way. People either like working there or they don't. As far as my buddy with the logistics going. Now, as far as the engines not being reliable and the complex electronics, I feel you, because my job at the factory was a process specialist, which is a fancy term for a mechanic on a specific machine when it broke down, and I feel your pain on that one. Super big pain in the butt when you got to fix the same thing over and over again every day, and you keep telling them what the fix is and how to fix it, and they can't fix it because you got to go through all this bureaucracy at the top. And this guy's getting greased from this guy, so you got to use this certain grease, even though you know this certain grease won't work. But I digress. Anyway, Mark Bukowski, race more, politics less. NASCAR has more rules than needed. I agree. The bigger the rule book, the more expensive the sport's going to be. No doubt about it. Michael Honeyjuck says cab over. Yeah, that's it. Cab over whatever. That's what I was looking for. And Mark Barnum says step van. It is close to a step van. Step van, of course, is some people call it a bread truck. In case you don't remember, but yeah, it's a suit. I think they call it the Isuzu Cub. It's a cab over body. Or cab over frame. I can't remember, but it's cab over something. And yeah, Joe, I do remember Joe Isuzu. He talked really fast. He was pretty awesome. I remember Joe Isuzu talked really fast, and I thought he was really fast until the Micro Machines guy came out. Then the Micro Machines guy, he was a really fast talking cat. If you remember those early 90s commercials. JD McDuffie was the last of the open trailer racers, says Mark Wachowski. Yeah, him and it's like him, Jimmy Means, and Dave Marcus were the last of the true, like, they owned the car, they worked on the car, they drove the car. They were the last of that breed, no doubt about it. Terry Garvin says heat races are a great plan. ARCA contract. I looked at the sponsors demanded a large hauler for billboard use. There you go. So that's actually part of the sponsorship deal. You have to have a large hauler for sponsorship use. And actually, I will say that if you followed Jordan Taylor as early as maybe as recently as 2018 or 2019, he was still pulling his car with a Dodge truck dually, and he had essentially a really fancy late model gooseneck trailer. But he was actually one of the last ones because he brought his trucks there in basically a late model setup back in the day. And I've actually seen late model guys that had better setups than Jordan Anderson had. So Jordan Anderson is actually another throwback. That's why I support him. He's got a great story. Just a really cool story. If you don't know Jordan Anderson, look him up, check him out. Please give Cole Custer the 15 car for Rick Ware at Daytona 500, please. He still has stuff to prove. I mean, I feel like that's possibly on the table because he's a really good restrictor plate racer. And he could help him. If nothing else, he could be a pusher, right? So I could see that happening. I don't have any information on it. I'm just saying I could see it happen. Will you be at the Auto Club short track in 2024? Anthony Auto Club Speedway. I hope so. I don't want to make any plans that far in advance because you just never know. But I do really want to be there for the first short track race that they have if it's in 2024 for sure. I know they've already started some construction on it. So if it's in 2023, I won't make that one. But if it's in 2024, I will plan on making that one. I do have plans on making another West Coast swing. I got to get some other things in place before that happens because I want to do it a little bit more intelligently than I did the Phoenix one. I enjoyed all the people out there in Phoenix. Just my process of getting out there was not the greatest. I got some things I can improve on, but of course I had to do it so I could figure out the things I can improve on. No doubt about it. But yes, Anthony, I do plan on being out there. Do you think the Dinger will make the playoffs his first year back? 100% one wise guy. I think I got him going all the way to the final eight, elite eight, whatever you want to call it. 2023 Daytona 500 will be the 10-year anniversary of Danica Patrick being the first female driver to sit on the pole and lead the Daytona 500. So there you go, Danica Patrick fact. I've actually got a Danica Patrick full print T-shirt. I wish I'd known you were going to bring that up. I would have worn that because I didn't. That's actually something I didn't know. So actually, that might be. I'll try to put that in my mental bucket list. So that Daytona 500, at least one of those episodes I'll make about that, I'll drop that fact and wear that Danica Patrick shirt. And I might need to hit the treadmill so I can squeeze into that shirt because I don't know how big I was when I bought that one, but I'm pretty sure it was lighter than this. T-Van said, was it going to be a bologna burger food truck? That's a question I get asked about a lot, and it was not. It was going to be a pancake truck. I was going to do breakfast and be done by lunchtime so I could work on race cars. But now I didn't realize I was going to get paid to work on race cars, so I just get paid to work on race cars and do YouTube, and I help out with some other media opportunities as they present themselves. Just making all the ends meet, however I can, to be honest with you. Mark Wachowski says COE, cab over engine. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Mark. Mark Barnum says COE, cab over engine. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you. I was struggling. You know how when you get something on your mind, but like, well, I don't know, but you know, the camera's rolling. I couldn't think of it to save my soul, but I appreciate y'all a whole lot because it was going to bother me. I'm glad somebody straightened me out. I knew it was cab over. I just couldn't figure out what the other one was. I appreciate it. Cab over engine is what I was looking for. That's how they came back in the day. And if you go to the Richard Petty Museum in Level Cross, they've still got their Dodge cab over engine that they rolled to the track on. If I ever go back up there, I'll get some video of it so we can talk about it. Mark Wachowski, I like the way you think, Mark. Seniority, because they had the same answers what they were talking about there. Chrome Diesel said seniority is the game at FedEx Freight. Beginners get the worst runs during night times. The longer you work there, the better the runs you would get to choose. So there you go. Sort of the same deal where I worked at. If you like it, you're probably not going to like the job you have right then. But if you just work a little while, people will quit and you will advance yourself. Or if you're really lucky, they will notice that you're actually a hard worker. Yeah, right. And advance you because of your hard work. Don't fall for that dream. But if you stay there long enough, you'll advance your you'll advance your position. And just if you like the place, stick with it, and it'll just get better and better as you stay there until one day you just hit it where you're just like, well, I'm coming in here, and it's like Groundhog Day for a little while. Unless you're just super motivated, one of those super motivated people that are happy to be at work every day. It will eventually just become Groundhog Day. You come there and do the same thing every day, and you hump it out until you can retire, which there's nothing wrong with. I was in the process of doing that until old the Rona hit. So it is what it is. RJ says, would you like to see Jordan Anderson team up with RCR one day? I would love to see that. I would really, really love to see that. Mark Wachowski says, Moulton, does Cole carry your picture in his wallet? I hope so, man. I hope so. Tacona 2, good to see you on here again, brother. JD McDuffie, now that was a man chasing his dream, and watched that race on TV. Rest in peace. I was watching that too, and what really sucked about it was that it was Jimmy Means that landed on top of him, because they were both sort of guys cut from the same cloth. So that it really sucked. It really, really sucked that it was Jimmy Means that ended up landing on his roof. Just a crazy guy. Like never in your wildest dreams would you imagine that scenario would happen. So it is what it is. JD McDuffie, Sanford, North Carolina's favorite son, says Mark Wachowski. No doubt about it. So when I went to Wilkesboro, I met the guy that runs or helps run one of the JD McDuffie sites on Facebook. Well, just social media, but Facebook, and he had a really cool JD McDuffie shirt and hat on. And I know he watches the channel sometimes. So shout out to him if he's watching this one. Really, really cool guy, and really good chatting with him when I went to North Wilkesboro. T-Van says, hell yes, Dinger top 8 next year. That's where I feel like he'll finish. He's just a really polished, really good driver. And even though he's probably in his 40s now, he's just still got it. Like, he's just one of those guys. He's like Harvick. He's one of those guys that still got it. They can probably race till they're 50 if they wanted to. Actually, looking back at it, other than 2020, where he was wrecked because of the drivers making dumb decisions, Ryan Preece was really good at Daytona with an average finish of 7th. So it's going to be interesting. I agree with you. I think, and that's what I'm saying. If they put Cole Custer in that 15, that gives SHR, more people to work with outside of just they can work with other Ford drivers, but they would have more actual SHR drivers to work with. So I could see Cole Custer getting that 15 ride possibly. Let's see. I think Danica should be in the Fox booth for the Daytona 500, says Douglas Serrano. I mean, a lot of people gave her a lot of slack for when she filled in when Fox was doing that deal, but I actually didn't mind her. I think Danica Patrick does know what she's talking about, but I think anything she says is going to be like polarized. Some people are going to like it, some people are going to hate it, but I didn't mind her in the booth. I know some people were critical of her. I didn't have a problem with her. Mark Wachowski, there was something she kept saying over and over again that they got on her about, but other than that, and I think Clint Boyer had to check her on it or something like that, but other than that, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's not like Jeff Burton and Dale Jr. don't have their quirks either, so it is what it is. She's just one of those polarizing people. Mark Wachowski says good tune and good show. Appreciate it, Mark. Hot take, Denny Hamlin goes winless, and both RCR drivers make it to the round of 8. I could definitely see that. I feel like Austin Dillon improves just a little bit every year. I think the improvement Austin Dillon needs to make this year coming up, is to be more aggressive, and not at plate tracks. I'm talking about be more aggressive. Like sometimes he'll get a top 5 and it feels like he settles for that top 5. Whereas if he would sort of get up on the wheel late in the race and get as much as he could out of that car late in the race, he could sort of get those extra positions. I feel like that's where Tyler Reddick beat him a lot of times. Like Tyler Reddick would just constantly always be looking for a line and being aggressive, whereas Austin Dillon was like, hey, if I play it smart here, I'll get this top 5 or I'll get this top 12 or this top 10. Which works under the old point system, but this is not the old point system. You got to go for wins. So I think that's where Austin Dillon needs to improve. He needs to stop being as consistent and start going for wins under this playoff system. TJ Moorshed says, hello, Mr. Baloney Burger. Having to jump between you and E-Step tonight. Oh, yeah, Eric E-Step's on tonight, too. So if you prefer him, feel free to go over there and watch that. Not going to hurt my feelings at all. We just happen to have a show on at the same time. Super, super nice guy. When he did the finger point for the show, he was probably as tired as I've ever seen a human being look, and I appreciate him doing that. And I hated to ask him to do it, but like I said, at Phoenix, I was unprepared, and I can't. It's hard to do. You can't do a point like that. So I needed something to fill in there, and he filled in there, and I really appreciate that because it made the video better than it could have been. So that being said, we are both on right now, and I appreciate you, TJ. Tom Harris says, how about some play-by-play short track asphalt racing or dirt racing until NASCAR starts? Well, I've actually got some play-by-play if you want to look at it. I film for Ace Speedway, so if you want to go to Ace Speedway's YouTube channel, we got a guy named Blake McCandless who does the play-by-play, and I film. I've just started doing it. It's not the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life. It's me with one camera, and I put Blake's audio over top of it. But if you want to see some local short track racing, I am a part of that. So go to Ace Speedway's YouTube channel and check them out. I really would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button because we're trying to get them over 1,000 subscribers. So if we can get them over 1,000 subscribers, that'd be really cool as well. How about, let's see, Mark Barnum. I worked in a packing house for two and a half years, first 3 months. Had a crap job, but then was able to bid it off and got the gravy job. So there you go. That's what I'm saying. You might start off with a job you don't care for. I appreciate it, Mark, by the way. But if you just stick with it, you'll eventually have seniority and you'll start getting better jobs. Any Matty D news says, who's that? One wise guy says, any Matty D news, hopes he gets another chance at Cup again. I haven't heard anything yet other than I think he's got a full ride with Rackley Ware. So I think he'll be back in trucks and that'll be good for him. With stage caution removals in talks, I'm down for it, and that's the other thing. I hope they actually do it as well, and he hopes they get removed overall. Fans will be confused, thinking which races will and won't have stage cautions. That could be true, but I think, yeah, I wish they got rid of them altogether as well. But I think it'll be pretty easy. I think it'll just be one of them deals where you just know road courses or Rovals are their own deal. One wise guy says, I hope so too. Douglas Serrano saying that to one wise guy. Molten Rage saying, Ryan Preece having a 7.0 average finish at Daytona. Honestly, he's a threat to win the Daytona 500 next year. With knowing that he has that good of a finish, he's a guaranteed threat unless he crashes. I agree. He's always been good at restrictor plate tracks. Mark Wachowski, Ryan Preece will show what he has to offer, and he will be strong. I hope he does a great job as well. I hated that was the decision that had to be made because I still believe in Cole Custer. I just think he was rushed up a little too quick. But I know Ryan Preece is good. I just hate that those two sort of had to be swapped out. But somebody has to leave a ride to put somebody else in a ride, and that's just the way it goes on that one. Would love to see how Dinger's career would have worked out at Penske without the bad drug test or whatever. Yeah, no doubt. I agree with you. It's just one of them things, Steve Van. It is what it is. Also wish he would have stayed at Petty, but I would have gone to Penske too. I just loved having him at Petty. He was super good, and man, just wish he had stayed. Would have loved to see Jesus' career if they didn't put him on a cross, says Mark Wachowski. He probably would have been the best ever, without blame, without shame. The stage is possible for a 17th place finish, career finisher to get the same amount of points as the race winner. Says Chrome Diesel. Yeah, I agree with you. You could win 2 stages and finish 17th. And yeah. I'm not a big stage racing fan. I think heat races are better. The Dinger has rebuilt his career like 3 times. Yeah, no doubt about it. T-Van. Everybody getting a pretty good chuckle from Mark's joke there. Allmendinger is a great racer. when he has great equipment, he is a wheel man. I agree, man. Allmendinger's an all-timer. Has Toyota confirmed the Camry for the Cup Series in 2023? Yeah, for next year, yeah. I was on the NASCAR shop website, and they're listing the Clash and the Daytona 500s as Toyota Supras. Yeah, I think that's just a typo, TJ. It's I haven't heard anything about it being changed. So as far as I know, it's still the Camry. I think that's just a typo, but that's a cool typo. I'll go over there and try to find it, and we can get the answers to it. I'll make a video, and they'll tell me to take it down, and it is what it is. That's a joke. I'm not going to do that. RJ Bansman says Mark Wachowski, he should sell alloy wheels with his nickname attached. Talking about Jesus up there. No doubt about it. Seniority is everything at the airline and freight line companies too. I have 24 years at United, says Camaro 50. Yeah, I mean that's the deal in jobs like that. No doubt about it. Douglas Serrano says, anybody miss Paul Menard? I miss Paul Menard, so you can add him to that list of drivers I mentioned earlier. We wish they'd come back and make at least 1 or 2 starts. I'd love to see Paul Menard make another start. That would be really cool. RJ Banjama says TJ Moorshed Camry is still being used. So confirmed that the Camry is still going to be the car next year. It is a typo on the NASCAR website. Mark Wachowski says, good one, RJ. Who can find a picture of Paul Menard smiling? There is one out there. There is one smiling picture out there that at least one that I've seen. But for the most part, he does the same. Looks like he's being bothered to take the picture pose. Sonny V says, please post a link to their channel and we will subscribe. I can do that. I'll tell you what, I'll have my stuff together for the next live stream. I will talk about all that stuff and post it, but it's just a Speedway YouTube channel. It's the only one that I'm aware of, so it should pop up. I'm sticking with your stream, BB. Says Camaro 50. Oh, it's all good. Like it's not a big deal one way or the other. But I appreciate everybody that's here. As always, TJ Moorshed says no one, RJ. LOL. So Paul Menard was better than what we saw. Yeah, so he was in some not great equipment for some of his career, especially over there at Petty. And I hate to say it as a Petty fan. When he was with RCR equipment was decent. He did win a race with RCR. But the Wood brothers, I feel like the equipment was questionable. I feel like they were getting fourth-rate Penske stuff. It just depends on who Penske has over there as to how much money Penske or how much technology Penske gives to the Wood brothers. Obviously, when Ryan Blaney was there, they were giving them really good stuff. But I can't say the same for other drivers. And it's all a financial deal, too. So it is what it is. RJ says, I know Allmendinger should sell wheels with his nickname attached to it. Oh, I got you. The Dinger. That would be pretty cool. Dinger rims. Let's see. Who would replace JGR? I still like my idea of Jesus rims. So there's that, too. Who would replace JGR for Hamlin and Truex? Probably John Hunter Nemechek and either Corey Heim or Sammy Smith, depending on who Toyota wanted to go with there. I personally would go Corey Heim. I'll just be totally honest with you. I'd go Corey Heim and Sammy Smith, and I would skip over John Hunter Nemechek. But that's just my personal thoughts on it. And they're all 3 quality, talented drivers. I just have seen more of Corey Heim and Sammy Smith because I come from the late model side of things. And I've seen them guys do things, and I don't have the same amount of knowledge about John Hunter Nemechek's career, but I know both of those 2 guys are the real deal. And I'm pretty sure John Hunter Nemechek is too. I'm just not as familiar with his body of work. Paul Menard was smiling in victory lane at Indy. There you go, Mark Wachowski. That's definitely one smiling picture. Anyone also remember when Jeff Gordon was showered with drink cans at Talladega? I do remember that. That's why they shouldn't do victory lane interviews at the start-finish line, by the way. They should do them in victory lane. Molten Ray says, I'm just going to say this, Ryan Preece in 2021 with a JTG Doherty 37, which lost his charter. So he had the races weigh in, was underfunded, top 10 at Daytona, was impressive as heck from a Ryan Preece standpoint. Oh, for sure. Like he's not scared. Like he's one of those guys, like when the lights shine the brightest, when the competition's the hardest, a lot of times Ryan Preece shows up. Like you look at the way he made his name. He had 5 races. He gambled on himself and gave himself 5 races to win a race. and he won a race. That's how he was sort of made his name in the Xfinity Series racing for Gibbs. So when he's got proper equipment, he's not afraid of the pressure. I'm a big believer in Ryan Preece. I'm also a big believer in Cole Custer. I hate that those two were the two that were being picked at that particular time, but Cole Custer's younger, so he's got time to work his way back up. And so it is what it is. Let's see. Eric looked tired when he did the finger point. You need to capture that photo and put it on a T-shirt. It says Robin Marks. I don't know about all that. I'm not going to troll anybody like that, especially when they're helping out. But he was definitely, I could definitely tell he was tired and he was exhausted. He was wore out from that weekend for sure. And I was too, but I was putting on a good face. But if you look at his video from that, you can't tell he's tired in his video. Like when he's a professional. When the camera went on, he put the smile on. So he's a pro. He knows what he's doing. Nice kid, super nice kid. So it is what it is. Anthony at Auto Club Speedway. Juan Pablo Montoya would have had more success in this current era of NASCAR. Everyone forgets he was actually a very good driver at every type of track except for the 2015 Daytona 500. LOL. Yeah, for sure. But you know what? That jet dryer won't talk junk to him again. That's all I can tell you about that, Anthony. That jet dryer. I've also got a JPM. I've got a couple of JPM T-shirts. He was one of my favorite drivers. And actually, that if you see it in the background, can you see it right there? Right there where Burt Reynolds is, that black car, right beside the Ward Burton car. That's the Juan Pablo Montoya 42. With the big car tomorrow spoiler on the back. Paul Menard's dad is a billionaire. Money was not a factor. Paul had the money. Seems like the teams kept most of it and built mediocre car. I agree with that, Mark Wachowski, 100%. I think Paul Menard was actually a really good driver, and I think, like you said, they pocketed the money because it's the dirty truth about racing. If they don't believe in you, they're not going to put a lot of effort into your equipment. Some teams, not all teams, but some teams definitely will be like that. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying I'll just say at the late model level, I've seen that happen. I don't know about Cup. Everybody's a professional in Cup. I don't want to point any fingers and say that, but it could possibly happen because I've seen it happen at the late model level. Is what it is. Juan's biggest problem was his temper. There's a lot of drivers. They get upset and see that red mist. That's one of the critiques I've got about Ty Gibbs. Can he get his emotions under control? Because if you figure out that you just got to piss him off to make him do something stupid, all you got to do is piss him off. And when he does something stupid, you don't have to worry about him because he's going to take himself out of the race. Molten Ray says, I love Custer, but after reading the Ryan Preece backstory, looking at what he's done in underfoot equipment, like in that 37 in 2021, he's slowly becoming one of my favorite drivers and has GOAT status. So there you go. Get on board, Molten. He is a good driver and a good guy, good kid as well. Well, he's not necessarily a kid, but he's a good dude. Mark Wachowski, how many race cars does it take to crash into a jet dryer? Just one. Good one, RJ Bansma. How will Jimmy do in his return to NASCAR next year, says Douglas Serrano. I think he's going to come back and he's going to be super focused on breaking that tie with Cale Yarborough and getting that win. And I also think he's going to be super focused on the Daytona 500. I like his position here because he can just be super focused on specific races and they can put all that money in specific races. So I like his position to get another win. Will it happen? Who knows? But I could see him in sort of like a Mark Martin position when Mark Martin ran that partial schedule and he reeled off a couple wins. I think it'll suit him. I hope it suits him because I'm a petty GMS man, and I do like Jimmy Johnson as well. TJ Morshed says, I remember watching Preece in the old blue modified at Thompson Speedway when I was early in elementary school. Dad was always saying the guy's going to be in Cup one day. Couldn't be a happier fan for sure, TJ. He's definitely one of the more legit racers. There's a handful of them out there that came up like that. Eric Jones is another one. But there's a handful of guys that made it up there. Josh Berry comes to mind, like that made it up there on talent alone. They didn't necessarily have funding behind them until after they proved they could drive. Then they sort of got some funding behind them. So he's a throwback if you like the blue collar racer, which a lot of people do. Ross Chastain's another guy of that particular category. Tacona 2 says, I want Victory Lane interviews back with the pit crew, the crew chief, the owner. It is a team sport, not just the driver. I'm with you, Tacona. And if we had Victory Lane interviews, we wouldn't have to worry about Brandon Brown not having a ride anymore. So I'd like to throw that out there as well. Mark Wachowski says, Ty is 20. He will mature. and he will be one of the best. I hope so. I don't have anything against Ty Gibbs. I'm just pointing out him and Noah both actually. They have short fuses. They have short tempers, and they can easily be manipulated by a veteran driver. If you get what I'm saying. So the right guy can play head games with them and get them to do something stupid. So Dale Sr. was famous for it, right? In practice with Jeff Gordon. Remember when he got Jeff Gordon to race him in practice, and then drove up beside him and got that side suck and spun Gordon with just air without ever touching him in practice. And Ray Evernham was super mad. So veterans do stuff like that. So if they know you got a temper, they'll take advantage of it. Who remembers Cale's old nickname? I don't, RJ, because I remember the 28 Hardy's car, but I don't go much further back with Cale Yarborough than that. I just vaguely remember it. I remember the Hardy's commercials with the Roadrunner car, and then the guy that there was like a fake race team called the Roadrunner number 90 for Hardy's, and the guy said something about like I don't know, he was talking about how good of a race car driver he was, and he was talking to Cale Yarborough. And then his crew chief comes up and goes, "Hey, you know who that was? That was Cale Yarborough." And he does the old 80s thing. When you do something stupid in the 80s, you got to do the old turn your hat like that. Like, oh, look, I did something stupid. And you turn your hat sideways. I never got that either, but I remember that commercial for some reason. And just remember this. Molten Rage says, just remember this. The year Ryan Preece. I do not remember his nickname, though, to answer that question. Ryan Preece in the Truck Series in the 17 just didn't make it for the first round. He almost made it to the Owners Championship. That's crazy. He's an underrated talent. I agree with you, man. Preaching to the choir, Molten. Mark Wachowski says no neck Yarborough. So there you go. Tom Harris says Kyle Larson and Ty Gibbs are my picks for 2023. There you go. RJ Bansma goes Old Hickory. So Old Hickory and No Neck are apparently the two nicknames we're going with here. Let's see. You know what? Let's get a poll going. Start a poll. Better Cale I'm going to misspell this. Better Cale Yarborough nickname. No Neck or Old Hickory. So there you go. I think Old Hickory is like a nickname for the devil too. So I don't know that one is particularly flattering either. Cale rocked the number 11 Holly Farms car. That was a sweet looking ride. No doubt about it. I do remember that car, but it was before my time. I just happen to remember the car. I think I saw it at a car show before. Robin Marks, I'm now a Watermelon Man fan. I'm a farmer, so he's now going to be my guy. Now that Kurt's retiring, I found the Moose fraternity has a chapter in my town. I think it's I don't want to share that because I'm actually making a video about that sponsor, Robin Marks. So I'm not going to jump into that too much. But yes, I think you are right. They're definitely up in Canada. So I think they should have a chapter sort of around where you're at. But I'm making a video on that sponsor. I am doing a series on what is that sponsor. So that's going to come up pretty soon here. Then the 11 was the Busch Beer car. That's probably his prettiest car. I think the best looking car he ever had was the Busch Beer car. The 28 orange Hardy's car was really good looking too. But then Ward Burton's Hardy's car looked better. That 31 and then that 2 in the Busch Series, the 2 Buick and the 31 Monte Carlo in Cup. And it was aluminum. It might have been aluminum one year too. Let's see. Watch Ryan Preece make the playoffs and shock the world, make it to the round of 8. Heck, maybe even the championship. I don't know about that. Mark Barnum says no neck was Ryan Newman. No neck Newman. RJ Bansma, I'd like to see the season finale hosted at Rockingham someday. I would too. No doubt about it. Dale Sr., the greatest to ever live. Ty Gibbs, aggressive driving. I've seen it before when I was young. LOL. Says Tom Harris. Yeah, no doubt about it. I've seen. I pulled for a lot of aggressive drivers, so it doesn't bother me. I just roll with it when somebody's like, "Hey, your guy wrecked my guy." I was like, "Yep, sure did. Your guy should have gone faster." That's usually how I address that situation. Or I would give them the famous line, "Just looks like you got loose to me," or your guy threw it in reverse when my guy was behind him, or something along those lines. Do you think they will loan JJ the number 48 when he races? Says Camaro 50. If Chad Canals wasn't there, I think the answer would be yes. But since Chad Canals is there, Chad Canals is married to that number as well, so they're not going to let him have it. Chad Canals has come out and pretty much said that in a smart butt Chad Canals way. Let's see. Mark Bukowski, Kale never got hurt in a race car, but Bobby Allison's fist did some damage. No doubt about it. He was double teamed, to be fair. Aldis, he also said that's why he left his helmet on. Honestly, there's no need for stages in NASCAR since it's turned NASCAR into a basketball game. It's just a joke. I don't know about a joke, but there's no need for them, and they're trying to make it too stick and ball sporty. I agree with you, Aldis. Did you ever visit the extinct Myrtle Beach Speedway? Me and my dad towed that number 3 modified down there twice for the Myrtle Beach 400. I was a tire carrier. The couple pit stops those races had. I was not there for the Myrtle Beach 400, but I was there for at least one, maybe two of the Cars Tour races when they went down there, TJ. So I was a part of those, and God knows it was the beginning of the season, and it was cold at Myrtle Beach. God, man, I never had a good experience at Myrtle Beach, man. And I went to a Busch Series race there too. That one was fun, and that one was cool because it was actually warm. But every time I've been down there for a late model, it's always at the beginning of the season, or it was. Obviously, it's tore down now, but it was at the beginning of the season, and it was cold, and it stunk. It was not fun. Ty Gibbs was actually racing the year that we went down there. He was racing for Greg Marlowe the year, one of the years I was down there with Craig Moore, helping Craig Moore in the Cars Tour. Old Hickory was Andrew Jackson's nickname. Old Hickory, always Mr. Burger. No neck in racing is good. No basal / neck injury, says Mark Wachowski. No doubt about that. This should be the Fox Cup booth. Lee Diffie, Kurt Busch, and Jamie McMurray. A lot of people are on the Jamie McMurray train. LOL, get out of the way, says Tom Harris. Mark Wachowski, that fight between Bobby and Cale is legendary. No doubt about it, RJ. Put NASCAR on the map. Is it bad that I like blue-collar drivers in Xfinity, Jeremy Clements, and now I'm starting to become a fan of Ryan Sieg? I'm a huge Ryan Sieg fan, no doubt about it. Michael Honeychuck says JJ is going to race the 84. I don't know, man. I hope they get the reasons. Racing the 84 would be totally fine, but I hope they get the 40 or a traditional petty number, maybe a 46, because that's what they run with Moffitt. But we'll see what happens. Jimmy Johnson has run the 84 before. He ran it in the Truck Series for Randy Moss. Happy birthday, BB, or happy Thanksgiving, BB, to you and your family. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it, One Wise Guy, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody else as well. A few days away from it, but I'll just go ahead and wish it to you now because there won't be a live stream before that. And actually, there won't be a live stream this Sunday. I should say that now as well. I got some friends in town, so I'm going to watch the football game with them. So this Sunday there won't be a live stream, but we might get something going. If I can pull it off, maybe a Saturday or a Friday, we might do one on that day. But no Sunday. Camaro 50. Appreciate the super chat there, man. Say he's got to run, BB, but peace. Thanks for hanging out with us, Camaro, as always, and thanks for the super chat. It will go toward the project car whenever we get that finished and purchased and get that going on. Alda says, what do you think of the finale in the afternoon? Honestly, I'm split on it since I'm used to seeing it under the lights. I think it'll be all right. It'll be fine. It's traditionally it was done in the daytime back when it was in Atlanta in the 90s and stuff. So no big deal. Mark Wachowski says no Moulton. Those guys need people like you. So there you go. Blue collar guys need as many fans as they can possibly get. I agree with that. With stage points, we have an old problem again. Someone having the same amount of points as the winner. I thought we emphasized on the winner getting the most points. Not anymore since 2017. Chrome Diesel making a very good point. Very good point, Chrome Diesel. TJ Moorshit, I hated those pit stops. Tripped over the air hose, carrying those wide tires every time. Cool experience, not that relaxing. Yeah, that's what I try to tell people, man. I've been to a lot of races, but aside from what happened to our team, I couldn't tell you what happened with a lot of them because A, I'm focusing on my team, and B, I'm in the pits, so I can't really see what's going on outside of, usually one corner that we're parked in. Get ready to see Kyle Busch wreck the JGR guys for a win, says Anthony. Auto Club Speedway. I agree. I think if it comes down to it, he's definitely going to put the bumper on him. Why wouldn't he? What's the status on Jeffrey Earnhardt? He had some good races. Would like to see him get an opportunity, and it's no neck all the way. I think Jaws calls him that in an interview. So there you go. If Darrell Waltrip calls him that, that's for sure. That's for sure what the drivers were calling him. What the fans call him is another story. Jeffrey Earnhardt, I don't have any news on him, but I hope he gets a ride. He did on Instagram. He did a vodka commercial. Or a vodka plug. So I feel like he's still got sponsors. He just doesn't have anything lined up for sure. I think Ryan C could have made the round of 8 in Xfinity if he was just about to catch and pass that paid driver named Brandon Jones. Well, yeah. Hopefully they get behind him with some funding there. I'd like to see him and Ryan C get some funding because I think Ryan C's pretty good too. They put Junior to the back for crashing 2 guys at Florence. They should have that rule everywhere, says Mark Barnum. I agree with you. And I should have probably made a video on that because it was clear as day and people were melting down. I can't believe they put Junior to the back of the pack. I was like, bruh, did you watch him? He cleared them guys out. He cleared the crap out of Matt Cox. It wasn't on purpose. He just misjudged it. But, I mean, he straight hooked him. And then Landon Pembleton, he got up underneath Landon, and there was no chance in hell that move was going to work. So, I mean, he wrecked 2 guys. And the rule is if you're part of the caution, you have to go and make contact and are part of the caution, you got to go to the back of the field. So it is what it is. I still hate old Chad Canals, LOL, says T-Van. Happy Thanksgiving. Chad Canals, you either love him or hate him, and it is what it is. I would rather not have bonus points for leading laps, stage points, since the second place finisher or someone else can score more points than the race winner. Look at F1 and the Australian supercars. Yeah, I agree with you there, Aldous. The stage points don't make any sense. Like, if you're going to give points for anything, at least make it a heat race so that you earn your points in that heat race. It's not just some random stage racing crap because nobody's going to go super hard in a stage race. They're just going to, try to get some stage points, and if they can't get them, they can't get them. It's not as aggressive as a heat race would be. What I meant during the Winston era with Latford's system, the second place driver leading the most laps can equal the same points as the race winner who led the most amount of laps. Chrome Diesel, that's a great point, and that's one of the things they pointed to right when they went to the chase. But now that we've got stage points and stage racing, it's the same exact problem, except there's a chance that 2 guys can do the same thing, right? Like if one guy wins a stage and another guy wins a stage, and one guy finishes second and one guy finishes third, and one guy doesn't win any of the stages or get any stage points but wins the race, basically all 3 of them have scored essentially equal points for the most part. Is DW in chat? I wish he was, but he's not. I wish he was in chat though. RJ. Let's see. Douglas Serrano says NASCAR finally getting rid of stage cautions so the Daytona 500 can end in daylight again. Well, they're getting rid of them for the road courses, but they're still going to have them for Daytona, unfortunately, Douglas. So that stinks. The talk about NASCAR getting rid of stage cautions makes me feel more like they're just inching closer to finally eliminating the playoffs, says TJ Moorshed. I hope so. I hope they eliminate the playoffs. At the very least, go back to the chase, because at least the chase made sense. You had, 10 races for the drivers that qualified, and those drivers had 10 races to make something happen. And half the field didn't get into the playoffs. I still like 12 drivers, 10 races. Let's see what happens. I think that's the better way to do it. Jeffrey in good equipment runs well. He is made for Xfinity. I agree with you, Mark. I think he'd be good, and I think he'd probably be good in Cup if he gets enough experience in Xfinity. He just doesn't have a lot of seat time compared to other people, and he still runs well when he's in good cars. So T-Van completely agrees with Moulton. He wrecked them plain and simple. I saw it live, says Tom Harris. No doubt, like it was clear as day. But the people melting down because, look, they're pulling for their guy. It's fine. It's what you do as a fan. But everybody that thought Junior shouldn't have gone to the back of the field, you were being a homer. That's all I can say about it. Dale Jr. was driving like Dale Sr., says Mark Wachowski. Yeah, somebody tweeted out using they took the line from Alan Bestwick, using lessons learned from his father, and then they obviously talking about him spinning out people. Harvick will be in the booth after he retires, says Mark Barnum. I agree, and I feel like maybe Adam Stern knows something we don't know, saying that he wouldn't have put that in there if he didn't have some information on it. So I think this could be Kevin Harvick. Just putting my tinfoil hat on, there's a good chance that this is Kevin Harvick's last year, and he goes into the booth in 2024. T-Van says, I wish Junior would give Jeffrey more of an opportunity. Yeah, I'm not sure what's up with that. I've heard people say that Junior's offered him stuff, and Jeffrey doesn't want to use his last name to get where he to get those rides. So it's if that's the case, I hope that's not the case. But I would like to see him get some help. I think he's a pretty good driver. Junior admitted on his live stream he deserved the penalties over driving. Says Mark Martin fan for life. Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm talking about his fans, because his fans are sort of people like, oh, Junior fans were never as bad as Chase Elliott fans, and then he did that, and they proved him right. And not all Chase Elliott fans. There's this lunatic fringe of Chase Elliott fans. Just because Chase Elliott has so many fans, that nothing Chase Elliott does is wrong. There's the lunatic fringe of Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans too, where nothing he does is ever wrong. The actual argument I saw that I thought was the most ridiculous was, there wouldn't even be all that many fans in the stands if Dale Jr. was there. How dare they put him to the back of the field? I was like, what does that got to do with anything? Like, he wrecked him. It's a rule. You've got to abide by the rule. Now, there were some other penalties that they missed in that race. So a lot of people said, well, they missed this penalty, but they penalized Junior. Well, welcome to racing. That's all I can tell you about that one. If Ray Evernham stayed with Gordon through his retirement or close to, Jimmy was never recruited by Jeff Gordon. Where do you think Jeff Gordon's stacking up 7+ championships and 100+ wins? In my opinion, he has 100+ wins already, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony. I don't know about 7+, but I think he would have 6 easily. So, and I don't remember exactly how many he would have with the Latford system, but I think he would have 6 at least. And you just never know on a situation with a hypothetical like that. But obviously, if Ray Evernham stayed, he would have had a better career. But it is what it is. Tom Harris says, yes, the 3-car was making him crazy. Still good race. Oh yeah. And to be fair to Dale Jr., he recovered all the way back up to 9th place. So he had a fast car. It is what it is. Junior didn't have to admit it. It was plain to see. Now he should be more careful when he criticizes other drivers for moving race cars. Just imagine if that had been Ross. Like, I'm just going to play devil's advocate. Just imagine if that was Ross Chastain in that 3-car wrecking people. Well, obviously give it a different number, but imagine if it was Ross Chastain in that car wrecking people. People would have lost their daggone mind before the Hail Melon. Before the Hail Melon, people would have lost their minds if that was Ross Chastain driving people like that. Jeffrey Earnhardt could have won Atlanta and Sam Hunt Equipment if Sam Mayer didn't turn right into him. That's racing. I agree with you, though. Jeffrey Earnhardt is a heck of a race car driver. I really want to see Jeffrey Earnhardt and Larry McReynolds get back together. 100%. Rusty Beechwood says, stage racing, stages are not going. More time, more advertising is the game. NASCAR was huge on a national global plane this year. Product is not being touched for some time until popularity tails off considerably. Yeah, Rusty, we're not talking about getting rid of stages altogether. The news that came out is NASCAR is thinking about getting rid of stage racing at road courses, and that's what I think they're getting rid of. Where I was talking about, I'm just saying, I hope they get rid of them altogether and go to heat races, because if you go to heat races, you still get the 2 breaks that you're talking about right here, but you get 2 actual races to set the field. And if you put some stakes in it, that they will race harder than normal. Because if you remember back to the Clash at the Coliseum, most people remember the heat races more so than the actual main event. So that's what I was talking about there. But no, I don't think they're going anywhere other than the aforementioned them thinking about it at road courses. Because at road courses, it disrupts the race more than it helps it out or anything like that. Harvick being the lead for the CBS booth would be great. With Boyer and Jeff Gordon. I don't think Jeff Gordon is coming back. He's got his hands full over there at Hendrick, but yeah, that would be a good booth for sure. It's kind of 2 says with the super chat, I appreciate it, man. Keep up the great videos and chats. At least us NASCAR fans have something until next year starts. Yeah, I'll definitely keep them up. Like I said, I won't be here this Sunday because it's basically a holiday, and there's some people that I'm gonna hang out with that I haven't got a chance to hang out with. But other than that, I will probably most likely keep them going. Jamie Thornton going with the Old Hickory nickname. Rusty Beechwood says needs keep the stage racing points awarded, but keep the action going. In the past, they had money laps, but the action didn't stop. So that's another thing that people have been. And let me finish reading it. The action didn't stop would be the same, but points for the playoffs instead. Keep the action going. So yeah, that's a good point. They could keep the stages if they'd stop throwing the cautions. So a lot of people are on that train as well. Mark Wachowski says DW was the best commentator NASCAR has ever had. Funny, smart, and just a cool dude. Yeah, I was a big DW fan as well. Mark Barnum says Iowa already announced the concert lineup for the doubleheader this summer with the Indy cars, Carrie Underwood, Kitty Chesney, Sheenan, and Florida Georgia Line. So yeah, I saw a lot of big talk about that on David Land's channel, and I think they got a great lineup over there. I think that's going to be really cool. Another doubleheader for NASCAR and Indy at Nashville Super Speedway in June as well, says Aldis. So yeah, they're definitely going to be cool. Maybe I can make that Nashville one. I'm not sure. Going to have to see how the schedule plays out on the late model side of things. Jamie Thornton says, watching the Coca-Cola 600 again right now. Why do we even race the Roval there? I agree with you to an extent with all the road courses we have. As good as the racing is on a regular track, I agree with you, Jamie Thornton. At the very least, I think the Roval at Charlotte should be like every other year. I think they should keep the Roval at Charlotte. I just don't think it should be an every year thing. But yeah, Charlotte with this particular package, it does put on a good race. So I don't think you necessarily need the Roval there anymore. But if you do, you just sort of keep it going every other year or something like that. I just don't like the idea of every race having to move to be a heat race. It just feels like it's doing that, and you're just trying to make a copy and paste of the Clash and Daytona, making those not special anymore. I don't know. Daytona's always going to be special. And the Clash had almost been completely forgotten about until they went with a heat race. So, and the heat races in the Clash will always be more intense because there's no points on the line. You're just racing for money. Josh says howdy from South Texas. What's up, Josh? Good to see you on here, brother. And always remember this about Jeffrey Earnhardt. The very first race car was a Yugo. Fact. Mark Wachowski. There you go. You are absolutely right about that. And there is your Yugo fact for this particular. We try to do at least one Yugo fact every live stream, and it's always in the second hour or later. So there's your Yugo fact. Mark Wachowski dropping some knowledge that I knew but had completely forgotten about. Jeffrey Earnhardt's first race car was a Yugo. That makes Jeffrey Earnhardt top 10 on the bologna burger people I pull for in racing. So without a doubt, can't put him at number one because I'm a Kyle Larson homer and I can't deny that. But anybody named Kyle I pull for. But Jeffrey Earnhardt is now up on the top 10. Immediate top 10 action for Jeffrey Earnhardt. And if you can find a picture of Jeffrey Earnhardt's Yugo and post it on Twitter for me, I would really appreciate it. I know Bologna Burger 84 is the Twitter handle. No one talked about Brandon Brown. I did. He got worked over, and hopefully he can get a ride next year. Just bad luck. He was the right dude at the wrong time, and that stupid Victory Lane interview. And so hopefully Brandon Brown can get a ride for next year. He's a heck of a driver. He's right up there with the best of them. Hopefully he can get some good equipment. Jamie Thornton says, hope to see Kurt Busch in the booth quite a bit for Fox this season. I think Kurt is great in the booth, and I agree with you, Jamie. Kurt Busch had a lot of excellent analysis the times he was up there this year, and I would really love to see him in there for good chunks of the season, at least two or three times, even if it's just one of those deals where he's only in there for like the first third of the race, because one race last year, they had two or three different people up there, so I'd be down for even that. But he has excellent analysis of the races and stuff going on. Is there any dirt guys you would like to see with a NASCAR ride? Shots. I'd like to see him in there. Kaylee Bryson, I feel like, is going to get a chance eventually. There's a few guys. I'm not an actual dirt expert by any stretch of the imagination, but those are the first two that come to mind off the top of my head. Now, if you go back in the day, I would have loved to have seen Sammy Swindell get a shot in NASCAR. I would have loved to have seen Steve Kinser get an actual real shot. Why is my finger doing that? There we go. I would love to see Steve Kinser get a better shot than what he got, because he got a raw deal in the ride he was in. It was a team that was going to go under eventually anyway, and they just never did it the right way for him there. So yes, he got a season in NASCAR, but it wasn't the shot he deserved. So there's some people from the past I would have loved to see in there too. I knew what you meant, racist. It's all good. I mean, Molten Rage. Oh, God dang it. Heat races, not heat racist. WTF, Google. I knew what you meant, Molten. How dare you actually hang out with real people, BB? I don't know what's wrong with me. I know, T-Van. I'm letting everybody down. Let's see. Jamie Thornton says, love that Larson shirt. Have you ever watched the rain delay video of Larson Hamlin and Stenhouse, the famous video game joke? I have seen that, Jamie Thornton. Unfortunately, that was like foreshadowing of what was to come of his mindset back then. But it was definitely funny. People don't find it as funny now, but it was definitely funny because he said something. I can say that because of who I am, and everybody just Ricky Stenhouse and Denny Hamlin just absolutely clammed up. So if you want to see what we're talking about, go Google video game joke. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson. It's pretty funny because you just see those other two guys. You see their eyes get big and they just clam up and they're like, we're not saying another word for the rest of this interview. And even the interviewer is like, So it's pretty funny. Rusty Beechwood, heat races at every race. Daytona had the Clash in twin races, which is basically heat races. So it's possible. What's the difference? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wish they'd go to heat races over stage racing. But for whatever reason, they're going to do what they do. Glad Jeffrey Earnhardt is on NASCAR is going to NASCAR, right? Mark Bukowski says, glad Jeffrey Earnhardt is on your top 10 list. He deserves it. Definitely. And I'm going to get one of those number 3 shirts too, as well, eventually one day. Delmar Kaufman says, met Haley Deegan at Rockfish Speedway. She told me she would be in a Ford next year. Forgot to ask what series. There you go, Delmar, doing some work for the channel. Our reporter in the field, Delmar Kaufman. I appreciate you, man. So we know for sure Haley Deegan will be in a Ford, but we do not know what series. I'm pretty sure she'll be in the Xfinity series because I just feel like Ford doesn't have a strong enough presence in trucks. And she wasn't doing good in trucks, but she's doing good in Xfinity. So I think it's a better fit for her. Mark Wachowski says, Brandon Brown is really good. Money stands in his way of greatness. I agree with you, Mark. I think he's super talented. I just wish he could find a sponsor that believed in him other than Larry's Hard Lemonade. Larry's Hard Lemonade is stuck with him, but that's they obviously don't have enough to keep him going for a full season. But their sponsorship is much appreciated for the races they do back him. Rusty Beechwood, they're trying to link Brandon Brown to BS so he never gets a ride. Yeah, it's so stupid. It's just so dumb. Like he had nothing to do with that, and it is what it is. Chrome Diesel says, did you rewatch Slap's playoff video? I forgot to do it, Chrome Diesel. I apologize. Did not get to it. Let me write that down because I'm gonna forget again. Getting old. If I don't write it down, I won't do it. All right, there we go. So I will be ready next time. I will be ready. Alda says I would not shorten. Sorry about that. I'll be ready for next time. You go sell for more money now than when they were new, says Philip. Canavan, I agree with you, man. And it stinks because I've tried to find one. So it's probably going to actually end up being a Fiat that we get because Fiat bought out the existing plant. So it's either going to be a Fiat 500 or a Fiat 500L. The Fiat 500L was actually made in the same plant that made the Yugo. So I'm leaning towards that. But if I can get a Fiat 500 at a way cheap price, I will go with that because it looks cooler. And I'll just, that's the way it is. But if I can find a Yugo really cheap, unlikely, we will do that. So the Yugo project will actually probably end up being a Fiat project. But same difference, just different badge. Philip Canavan, I blame Robert Dunn of Aging Wheels for that. So there you go. Scott Bloomquist. Scott Bloomquist would be another one I'd like to see in there, but they're never going to let him in NASCAR for anything. And I don't think the Dale Earnhardt Jr. interview helped him in any as far as getting the NASCAR license. Scott Bloomquist is the great. Never cared for stock cars. Dirt is his life. No doubt about it. But I'd love to see him in a stock car, but it'll never happen. Ever watched Doug DeMuro Bologna Burger, I have seen highlights. I've never actually watched the full race, but I do know who you're talking about, RJ. Alda says, why would all of you get rid of the Roval? I love it. I didn't say I'd get rid of it. I said I would alternate it every other year. And I'm only getting rid of it because of this package, because of the way this package races on 1.5s. He said, I loved it. It produced nothing but bangers ever since it was made in 2018. Yeah, but I think you could rotate it, and that would give it a more exclusive feel. So you knew that once every 2 years, you weren't going to be able to get it. So I feel like it would be more special then. I think there's a lot of tracks that should rotate. I think Bristol should rotate the dirt race. I don't think they should have a dirt race every year. It's going to get stale and old. I have to go now. Bye, says Douglas Serrano. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us, Douglas. Always good to have you on here. Back, yeah. LGB, says R. Escobar. Let's see. Honestly, Atlanta should not have been reconfigured into Speedway. Just repave it, says Aldis. Well, yep, but the Super Speedway gave them a good race, so they're going to stick with it. And we're not going to see how good that track actually is till the concrete gets old and wears out. I don't think it'll always race like Super Speedway. Mark Bloomquist is good on the dirt, says Mark Barnum, for sure. Alda says, BB, why are you skipping my comments? I'm not skipping your comments. You're reading others, but not mine. I feel like I am reading yours, man. First gen Broncos and FJ Cruisers are money, says Mark Barnum. Yeah, I agree. The FJ rides like crap too. So I can't believe people pay so much money for them. But then again, the Jeep rides like crap, and I'm pretty sure the new Bronco rides like crap. I can't believe all these people pay all those money for those cars and they don't ride really good. I guess if you're really into that off-road stuff though, that's your jam. Rusty Beechwood, get you an Alfa Romeo over a Fiat if you can't find a Yugo. It just depends on what we can afford there at the time. They have to do something with Texas. It's awful. I agree with you, Jamie. Jamie Thornton says they have to do something with Texas. It's awful. Too big a market to leave. What about a bigger Darlington style remake instead of a 1 mile Darlington at a 1.25 mile egg-shaped Darlington? That would be unique. I'm with you on that. I would like for them to sort of make a unique track and stop sort of trying to do what every other track is doing. So hopefully Texas doesn't copy what Atlanta did. Hopefully, I'm with you. I hope Texas does something different when they reconfigure what they've got, because they've obviously said that they are going to reconfigure. Me personally, I would like a short track, but anything would work 100%. Mark Bukowski says, Bloomquist in late models, Kentzer in sprint cars, but those dudes love dirt, and NASCAR is not as action-packed. Those boys drink adrenaline for sure. The races are shorter, so you actually have to go for it, and so you can't just like ride like Haley Deegan's talked about it. A lot of the races that she's in, she feels like she's just riding around and then waiting to go at the end. So you don't have a lot of that in dirt because you got a short amount of laps and you're just going for it the whole time. That's also another deal. Let's see, T-Van, what year Fiat and Yugo are you looking for? The 500L would just be the entire run of the 500L, and then just whatever the regular 500. I guess the regular run of the 500 since they brought them over here. The new 500, not the old 500. And then just whatever Yugo. They ran the Yugo here until 1990, and I think it came here in 84. So 84 to 90 would be the Yugo. Mark Wachowski talking to Aldis there. T-Van, just anything cheap. No, I'm trying to at least keep it in the Fiat family because Fiat bought out Yugo or Zastava or whatever it's called. Zastava was the. I have just started the Yugo research. So if you want to buy a Yugo book, that's it right there. So Zastava, I think, was the Yugo. And Fiat bought them out, so that's what we're sticking with Fiat if we can't find a Yugo. So I will narrow it down to that. How would you remake Texas if they came to you and asked? Says Jamie Thornton. I've always kind of wanted to see what like a longer version of Martinsville would look like. Like if you could really get up some speed and then go into a really tight hairpin type corner. I've always kind of wanted to see what that would look like. Yeah, but put banking on it, but actually bank it super high and see what you got. So it would sort of be like a combination of Bristol and Martinsville in my head. That's kind of what I would do just to see what happens. And if it stunk, then we would tear it down and try something else. That's my thoughts on it. Thoughts on the Rockingham repave, says Delmar Kaufman. I think the Rockingham repave is going to be a really good thing because from what I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but what I heard when the car store was going to run a race there, and they said when they went out there to practice, because they did a test, because you're going to have to change late models significantly to race at a track that big. They said that the concrete was coming up pretty bad, so it definitely needed a repave. So I think the repave will help it out quite a bit. It's going to make it a lot faster, but I'm really more interested in how that repave ages as to how good of the racing is going to be. Aldous says, I would not shorten the season to 30 or 32 races and end it in October or September. I would end it at 36 and November, and shortening the season would mean pleasing stick and ball fans and less races. I would keep it at 36 races myself, Aldous, but I would sort of end it either the first week of November or the last week of October, however it fell that year. And it's not because I'm not trying to please stick and ball sports. Just in the United States, there's this reality that right now NASCAR ratings wise is not going to compete with the NFL. So you don't want to get sort of too far into the NFL season because the NFL is just going to steal a lot of your viewership. So that is my reasoning for that. It's not to appease the stick and ball sports. It's just I'm sort of dealing with that reality of how it is over here. Bloomquist drinks more than adrenaline. LOL, says Roger Riggs. Yeah, no doubt about it. He even talked about he's a pretty heavy drinker when he was on the Dale Jr. download. Molten Rage says, remember the first Bristol dirt race in 2021 where everyone was basically blind. They couldn't see anything in front of them, so it caused nothing but wrecks. I describe that as chaos. That's all, folks, says Molten Rage. Yeah, the Bristol dirt, whenever you do a first race, so I'm gonna cut them. I'll cut them some slack on that. Whenever you do a first race of that nature, there's going to be some problems. They ran into some problems. They've made it better since, and hopefully each iteration of the dirt race will get better. But I do think the dirt race should be like every other year. That way you sort of keep it special. And I do have similar thoughts on the Roval at Charlotte. Do it every other year and keep it special. And actually, to be totally honest with you, even at Indianapolis, if you ran the oval one year and ran the road course one year, it would keep the oval special because then the traditionalists that want to see somebody win the oval Brickyard, well, your driver has only got 2 times every 4 years that they've got a chance to win the traditional oval. And also, you could have people that go for the, hey, I won on the Indy road course and I won on the Indy oval. So I think that would be a pretty cool thing to do as well. NASCAR should run Pikes Peak, and then we will see who is who, says Mark Wachowski. If you mean the Pikes Peak racetrack, I agree. And if you mean the actual Pikes Peak race, I also think that would be a real test, depending on what they drove. That would be cool. Aldis Carosa says, for Texas, let's move the races to a dirt track next door, drop Bristol dirt, and let's go to Texas dirt. Texas dirt track would actually, they would have to make a few modifications to it, but I think they could put on a show at the Texas dirt track. They would have to have heat races. You couldn't have all 43 cars on the track, but I think that would add to it. So I think the Texas dirt track would actually be a good spot if you ever wanted to do a all-star race in Texas again. What kind of doctor is Dr. Pepper? A physician, says RJ Bansma. So there you go. There you go. Dr. Pepper joke, and that's a pretty good one. I like that one, RJ. They should race the All-Star race at Slinger. I'm okay with them moving the All-Star race everywhere. Mark Wachowski says, dang, Baloney Burger, you have a Yugo history book. You are the man. I just found it. And got it the other day. So it's pretty cool. Rusty Beechwood says a long version of Martinsville is kind of like St. Louis. So there you go. That would be cool because St. Louis track puts on a pretty good race as well, if I'm remembering correctly. The Gateway track, I think, is what it's called now. Let's see. One wise guy, do you think 2024 will be the year NASCAR goes racing international again? I feel like they're looking at that, one wise guy. I feel like they're looking at it pretty hard. And from what everybody said, the track that they were pushing for before the pandemic hit is Mexico City. They said after that, Mexico City, they didn't, after everything that went down or whatever like that, it didn't, it just didn't pan out. So I feel like they were leaning toward Mexico City, but I don't know. I don't know where it would go from there. Mark Wachowski says, Moulton, when NASCAR runs dirt, they need to get rid of windshields. 100% agree with you there, Mark. They need to put the screen metal net up there on the front window and just be done with it. Because the biggest problem, I agree with you, is that they've got windshields. RJ Bansman says, Mark Wachowski, Malcolm Bricklin bought the Yugo over here. Look up the Bricklin SV1 as well. All right, I'll check that one out. One wise guy says, do you collect die-cast haulers? I don't, but I do have two of them. I have the Kyle Petty Mellow Yellow, and I've got the Richard Petty STP Petty Enterprises one, racing champions back in, I guess, like the early 90s. I was a little kid. But those are the only two I got, and I just got them because they were Richard Petty. And then I got this big, like, Richard Petty super collector set from Racing Champions. It's got, like, the mini hauler. It's got the big hauler, and then it's got all the race cars, the 124, the Micro Machine, the 143rd scale, the 124th scale, and then I think that's it. Maybe an action figure. I can't remember if I got the one. There was two versions. One had an action figure and one didn't have an action figure. I can't remember if I got the one with the action figure or not. Stage racing and win and you're in is what made the All-Star race not special anymore. Yeah, okay, Chrome Diesel. Yeah, getting three transfer spots. Yeah, that definitely takes away from it a little bit. I could see that. I don't know. I always thought the Winston Open a lot of times was a better race than the actual All-Star race. But yeah, I agree with you in the actual All-Star race, the stages in it. Yeah, I agree with you. They should just run one, just run 150 lap feature, and you have to pit and you can't pit under caution. So just 150 lap race and just have at it. And you got to pit at some point in that race, which would be a 50 lap race. You would imagine you would pit pretty early and get it over with. All-Star race should be merged with the Clash, to be honest, says Aldis. They should have a similar format. I don't know if you merge them. I think you have one at the beginning of the season and you have one in the middle of the season. And if you really wanted to get exotic, you could have one after the season is over with if you wanted to go that route. So you could have some exhibition races if you really wanted to go hardcore with it. Mark Wachowski says Dr. Pepper 10, 2, and 4. That was the old commercial. And Mark Barnum says, Mark, that is my nap schedule 10, 2, and 4. That's a good schedule, Mark Barnum. You're living a good life over there. They should have a race up in Canada, says Philip Canavan. I agree. Canada would be a good place to have an international race. And I wouldn't even consider that, or Mexico, if you had it at the right place, necessarily an international race, because they're relatively close. If you go to the right spots, you're not traveling any further than you would for some cup races. So I think that would be the best two places to have international races, because there wouldn't necessarily, unless you really wanted to, there wouldn't have to be any flying. You wouldn't have to fly the cars overseas or anything. So from a cost standpoint, those would be the best. And NASCAR forever has screamed about we're trying to get costs down, but then they talked about we want to do an international race. So those two things don't mesh. And also they're spending all this money to do the Clash at the Coliseum and the Chicago Road Race, and a lot of times what they say don't add up. Mark Martin Fan for Life says wherever they hold the championship weekend should only be raced on that weekend once for the year. Everyone goes in basically blind for that season. That's a very fair point, and I 100% agree with you. And I don't know what more I can say other than that. Like, you're 100% right, and that's just the way it should be. R. Escobar says, what car will Chevy use in NASCAR when they discontinue the Camaro? They haven't said yet. They're working on some car. It's basically going to be an electric car. It's going to be the body, or a hybrid car is going to be the body they use for the car. But what they're going to call it, they haven't released yet. But they did say they're coming out with another one. And there's it's not the Chevrolet, but Buick has a concept rendering of what some of Buick's new stuff is going to look like as far as the car goes. And I would imagine Chevrolet's is probably going to follow suit as well. RJ says, T-Van, try Twitter. T-Van says, how do I message you? Yeah, Baloney Burger 84 on Twitter. Here, let me just do it like this. There you go. That's my Twitter tag, Baloney Burger 84. On Twitter, and you can message me from there. I try to answer them just like everything else. If you follow me on Twitter, I try to follow you back. If I missed you, just unfollow me and follow me again so I can see it. And when I see it on the other one, I'll eventually follow you. Ask anybody. I try to follow everybody back. Glocktopus, what's going on from the West Coast? Checking in. Good to have you on here, Glocktopus, as always. Rusty Beechwood says St. Louis was a good race. It's Worldwide Technology Raceway. Leave Texas. It's always blah at best. Rotate the All-Star, make it a win to get in like it used to be. I agree with you, Rusty Beechwood. T-Van says, I'm not on Twitter. I'm not active on Facebook, but you can go to the Facebook. I don't check it as often. Do the Facebook page, the Baloney Burger on Facebook. And you can message me on Messenger on that one, but I check it maybe once a week. So I'm not going to be as rapid on that one, but I'm quicker on Twitter. But I don't want you to sign up for a Twitter account if you don't have one and you don't want to do it. But if you have a Facebook, you can message me on Messenger on Facebook at the Baloney Burger account. I check it. I try to check it once a week for sure. So let's see, but I don't. I mean, if you're following me on Facebook to see me post anything, I don't post anything on Facebook hardly ever. Would delete it if I could, but I can't. I use it for other stuff like Facebook Marketplace. Mark Wachowski, Kyle, do you have a Kerry Earnhardt diecast race car? I have one. If you don't, a big one. Glad to send it to you, says Mark Wachowski. I do not have a Kerry Earnhardt. Even though he was an RCR man, that was a point in my life when I couldn't afford diecasts. So I did always want one of the Kerry Earnhardt ones because he drove the 33 for RCR. But yeah, get up with me, Mark. We'll figure it out if you would like to send it. Mark Wachowski says, how much would the cartel charge NASCAR haulers to cross the border if they race in Mexico? That's a good question. It depends on what their cut of the race would be, I would imagine. Here's a question that I honestly want to answer out of all. I'm just joking, by the way. I don't want to come up missing. Honestly want to answer out of all the crown jewels, this is the only one he needs. Why can't Hamlin finally get the last one? The Brickyard, everything goes wrong all the time. Yeah, Moulton, I agree with you. He was super close, and then Chase Briscoe took him out with that insane move. That was peak Chase Briscoe. Man, if you're a Denny Hamlin fan, nothing more needs to be said there. Yeah, you're right. It does seem to always go wrong for him at the Brickyard. So that'll be the one. That'll be his if he ever gets the Brickyard 400 win. That'll sort of be his Earnhardt 1998 Daytona 500 moment. Mark Barnum, that's just by a GM-backed third party. Says RJ Bansma. When Bristol was reconfigured in 2007. Other than the progressive banking, the track was widened. That's why the bump and run went away. Bristol should be on asphalt with the top and bottom grooves, says Aldous. Yeah, I did like the way asphalt. We've agreed with this. I think on Twitter. I did like the asphalt version of Bristol for sure. T-Van says I was looking around Indy, found a 2014 Fiat 500L. 114,000 miles, $7,990. That's not bad, is it? It's in the running if it is a manual, because the weak point on them is the automatic transmission. With a lot of cars that are front wheel drive, the automatic transmission is the issue. So I am going to look for one with a manual transmission. So I'm not trying to be super picky, but if I'm going to spend money, I gotta get all the little things I want. I don't have to have the Beats by Dre system in it though. Glocktopus said, is there a reason the chat replays aren't enabled? I try to catch the replays when I miss, but there's no chat with the replay. It should be enabled. I don't know what's going on with that. It should play. The chat should play in the replays. It plays for me on my phone, but I'm not sure. It's supposed to play. I will look into it though. I'm glad you brought that up. So I'll take a look at it and see what's going on. Alda says, sorry, BB, I had to rant about you skipping my comments. It's all good, man. I don't take nothing serious. It's the internet, buddy. If you feel like you need to rant, get it out your system. Do you think Petty GMS will keep that name or add Jimmy Johnson in some way? Says Delmar Kaufman. So technically, like if Richard Petty's last name wasn't so famous, they could go with Dick Johnson GMS. Dick Johnson GMS would be the greatest name of all time if it didn't already basically exist. So in the Australian V8 supercars, they already have a Dick Johnson Racing. So there you go. There's my Dick Johnson joke. But I think Petty GMS Johnson would probably be the best. Would probably be the best fit for that, and I think they will probably do something like that. And I think you'll see them do it sort of like Chip Ganassi and Felix Sabates did. It was Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates. So I think you could see Petty GMS with Johnson or with Jimmy Johnson or with JJ84 or JJ48 or JJ whatever number he's going to be. Let's see. Mark Wachowski, tell me where to send it. Just get with me. Get with me either on Facebook Messenger or Twitter Messenger, and I'll hook you up. Speaking of diecasts, did you hear the names from Eric's Out of the Groove 6-car are going to be on the actual diecast? Say Kyle, not Cal. That's really cool because if you look hard enough, you'll see Baloney Burger on there twice. We're toward the right side of the quarter pan or of the deck lid. On that. So get your magnifying glass out and look for Baloney Burger. There's 2 chances to find it. We did ride with him on the 6-car. That was a really cool deal, and I'm glad he did it. One wise guy says, make a Discord chat for messaging. I'll look into it. A lot of people want me to make a Discord. I'm not real familiar with it, so I'll take a look at it and see what we can get going over there. Rusty Beechwood says, Hamilton nuts up when it's on the line nowadays. So that's been a lot of people. I don't necessarily buy into it. But a lot of people do believe when it comes crunch time that Denny Hamlin chokes. That's been a criticism of him in the past. Let's see. The one that hurt him the most was the Brickyard 400. It was 2020 when Hamlin dominated the race and was leading on the final 3 laps and then blows a tire on the final corner. Actual living pain. Says Moulton, yeah, that was definitely a rough one. Dale Earnhardt had one like that at Daytona too, where he lost the tire. It's very similar how those races line up for both of those guys. Not comparing Denny Hamlin to Dale Earnhardt Sr., I'm just saying they both had a race they couldn't win and had similar situations happen. Chrome Diesel says Hamlin always wanted to win the Brickyard on the oval, not the Indy road course. That's a fair point. I'm pretty sure he'd take either trophy though, for sure. Alda says for Texas Dirt, it should have Big Hoss and infield care center, pit lane, media center, a half-mile layout with 24-degree banking. Yeah, I agree. That I would like to see a big dirt track, a dedicated dirt track. I think that would be really cool. I think when they redo Texas, they could redo the dirt track as well, and I think it would be 100% awesome. Alda says the replay has the chats for him as well. So I don't know. Maybe check Glock check your settings maybe because I can see it on my end, but I will look at it. I'll actually replay this one myself and see if I can see them. And if it's something I'm doing on my side, I'll fix it. Richard Petty or Peter Brock for the King. I'm going Richard Petty for the King, no doubt about it. I grew up a Richard Petty fan, so that's a no-brainer for me. Delmar Kaufman, Denny Hamlin seems to be pretty cocky since he has MJ on his side. He's always had MJ on his side. He's just got him as a business partner now, but he's always been a confident dude. Like I don't know. He's always had a sort of a swagger about him though. Rusty Beechwood, he might be more vocal about it now. Maybe Petty GMS needs to get sponsored by Seagram 7 and 7-Up. Brilliant. Along with your idea of the number 49 sponsorship, genius. That would be pretty cool. Actually, the 49 is from Black Flags Matter. Darian Gillum, he came up with that number, but it's a good idea. But yes, Seagram 7 and 7-Up. That's the old 7 and 7. That would be a pretty cool sponsorship deal for sure. Is Tony Stewart having a fallout with Gene Haas? I feel like it's happening. I feel like they're trying to work something out over there. I think that's why Gene Haas deferred to him and put Ryan Preece in the car. Eric Estep actually made a good point about that. He said he's throwing him a bone because he feels like when Kevin Harvick retires, he won't be interested in anymore. So if he puts Ryan Preece in a car, maybe that'll keep Tony Stewart interested in NASCAR for a little bit longer and to keep him on as a partner. So I feel like Estep was all over it on that one. He made a very good point there. Mark Wachowski says two-time 7 GMS would be a pretty cool name. It's definitely be a pretty cool logo. Say Kyle, not Cal. I've heard that was confirmed. I haven't heard that was confirmed, and was asking if you had heard, if Eric has mentioned it, or if not, don't give me false hope. What are we talking about here? Yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard if it's confirmed or not either. Hopefully they'll be on there. He's talking about the names on the deck lid for the diecast. Yeah, hopefully they'll be on there. Say Kyle, not Cal. I haven't heard anything official on that, so I have no idea. But hopefully on the diecast they will be on the back. Yeah, I don't know. I would hope they're on there, but they put smaller stuff on other diecasts, so I think there's a good chance they're on there. Just checked, and it's an automatic. I understand. I'm a Jeep guy. I only drive a manual, says T-Van. Yeah. It's just manual transmissions last longer if you drive them right, and they're easier to work on, quite frankly. Mark Wachowski, Derek Cope won Daytona on the last lap flat for the number 3 car. Yep, I remember that. That bright orange Purelator car, number 10. I remember that. I will say this, with his behavior and how he acts, especially the past 2 years, Hamlin has been a little more mature. He's more active, like the grizzly veteran than the egotistical young guy from 2017, to be honest. Yeah, I think he showed the biggest moment that he showed some maturity was when Chase Briscoe wrecked him, being just completely insane. And I love Chase Briscoe. I love his talent. I love his ability. I don't always love his decision making, but what he pulled in Indianapolis was bullcrap. And Denny Hamlin handled that better than I would have handled it, because I would have fought the guy. I'm not going to lie to you. Like if he wrecked me and he basically knew he was disqualified, I would have lost my stuff altogether. Just totally would have lost it. And that's so I think he showed a lot of restraint, without a doubt there. NASCAR should leave the big oval Texas races. Do the modifications needed for the dirt track. I mean, yeah, I would like to see NASCAR have a dedicated dirt track, and I think Texas is the perfect place for it, because they love dirt racing in Texas. So I think you're on to something there, Aldis, no doubt. Do you think in 2 to 3 years, Petty GMS could expand to 3 cars and fit Daniel Dye or Sheldon Creed? Yeah, I do. 100%. I think that they could expand to 3 cars. I think it might be in the books. It might be something they're toying with, and I think they would still keep the Jimmy Johnson Open car. So I think there would be a 4-car team. Only the 4th car would be a partial. There's only 2 American Kings, Elvis and Richard, says Mark Wachowski. There you go. I agree with you. T-Van, I think Mark Martin will always hope Denny gets second his whole career. I love Mark Martin. Yeah, I don't know. But I think, I mean, if you had to line them up, I would say I think Mark Martin was a better driver. If you want to compare the two, I don't think it's a really close comparison. But I will say this: I think Denny Hamlin has probably put in more work than any race car driver I have ever seen in my entire life. Because he's even said it. He didn't have what they call natural ability to drive a race car, but he just put in work and got better and better. Just put in the seat time. And so I'm actually really impressed from that perspective that Denny Hamlin, he just went to work and got as much experience as he could to get better. So I'm actually impressed with him from that perspective. Say Kyle, not Cal, with the double thumbs up, and Rusty Beechwood with the happy Thanksgiving and the peace. I appreciate it, Rusty. The Fox booth, Aldis says the Fox booth should be Lee Diffie, Jamie Mack, Kurt Busch, the CBS Cup booth, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, Matt Kenseth, ABC ESPN booth, Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, and Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards would be a good one. I like that. I like that pick. No mention of Jeff Burton in there, so we're dropping Jeff Burton. I like the other picks. I like the Matt Kenseth, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick lineup. That's probably my favorite out of all those. Mark Witkowski and no Mike Joy, but Mike Joy has to be close to hanging it up. I like Mark Witkowski. I like when he was whining about Chase Elliott, says Mark Witkowski. He does still. I mean, just look at him on Twitter. He does still voice his opinion. But I'm talking about post race. He has cleaned it up quite a bit. Uncle Bones too says, "Oh my God, Mr. Berger, my Filipino singers and Bigfoot shows you are over and still on. Great, I appreciate it. Bones." Molten Rage, Chase Briscoe took the phrase from Noah Gragson, checkers and wreckers, and made it literally into a career that has basically been his career. Chase Briscoe is the definition of checkers or wreckers. I agree with you 100%. Either 44 or 46 for Petty GMS, for Petty Johnson GMS, says Aldis. I agree with you, Uncle Bones with the laughing face. Ryan Perez is going to need a bigger seat to fit Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed's a big old boy now. Austin Hill's an even bigger boy. Different kinds of big, though. He is one of those country boys, says Glockopus. Uncle Bones, too. You have a Filipino in here that is in this chat, man. It's me. I appreciate it, Aldis. I appreciate everybody from wherever they're from and whatever nationality they are. I appreciate all you guys, man. You're all awesome. So there you go. Uncle Bones, also of the Filipino descent. That's really cool. Let's see. Mark Barnum, Hamlin said on Danica's podcast, 60 wins is more important to him than a championship. So that's I think he was doing two things there. He was saying that 60 wins is important to him. And I think he's also kind of throwing some shade on the current playoff system, Mark Barnum. So I think when he made that comment on that Danica Patrick deal that I haven't listened to, but I've caught the highlights of, I always thought that that's what he was doing. Because Denny Hamlin is always slick with what he says. He's pretty clever as far as interviews and stuff like that when he's had time to sit down and think about them. Just think how far this show has come in 4 minutes to 2 hours plus 8,500 subs. Great job, says Mark Wachowski. Man, I appreciate it, Mark. And I'm out here every day, every episode trying to get better. Every time I do something, I'm trying to do it just a little bit better than I did it before. So I appreciate all you guys for sure. That being said, I am starting to wear down. So we're going to do about maybe 10 more minutes. So if you got any more questions, get them in real quick. And we're going to speed run these last ones. All right. Uncle Bones says, Aldis, hey, MLSO, good to see you. MLSO, Uncle Bones, too. Hamlin said that because that's what he has. For sure. That's a fair point. I knew that about it. There you go. Hamlin said that because that's what he has. He has the 60 wins, but he doesn't have the championship, of course, is what he means. And yeah, that's not fair. That's a fair way to play it. You could also look at it as, he was trying to throw some shade at the point system, which is what I would do in that situation. I'm not going to lie about it. Hamlin, rather than winning 60 races than a championship on Dennis' podcast, just shows why championships are just a bonus these days. Chrome Diesel, that's a good point. That's a fair point to make, and I like it. If Chase Briscoe isn't winning, he's freaking wrecking you, says Molten Rage. I agree with you. Thoughts and expectations for the 24 team next year? I think they'll have a pretty, say Kyle, not Cal, with the question there. I think they'll have a pretty similar year to this year. I would expect William Byron to be more consistent toward the end of the season. He had a slump midseason. So if he can get rid of that slump midseason and build some momentum for the end of the year, I think he would be in a much better position. He actually ran pretty good at Phoenix for most of that race from what I saw. I can't remember his actual finishing position, but he had speed there. Glocknopus says, what's your opinion on fried bologna sandwich with seasoned salt? Go for it. I like it. Allspice is also something you can, if you want to sort of like do a dry rub, like allspice and Cajun. I would throw that on there if you want to try like a sort of like a blackened tuna, except you do a blackened bologna burger. I haven't tried it, but I feel like just in my mind right now, I just thought of that, and I feel like that would be a good combo. Sort of like a Cajun blackened bologna burger. Alda says, BB, I like your idea of Iowa should be reconfigured into a 0.6 mile D-shaped oval, and Chicago land being rotated for Cup yearly. Yeah, like that's. I feel like if you got 2 tracks, rotate them. That way, it makes it special, and people will always buy a ticket. Rhinos Race Room 66. Well, hell, I'm late. Great show. I appreciate it, Rhinos. Like I said, we'll keep it going for a couple more minutes here, but yeah, we had a good one today. Hot take if Chase Briscoe, Molten Rage here. Hot take if Chase Briscoe keeps racing like a jackass like he did this year. Mostly he's not making the playoffs next year. 100%. I stand by that. He needs to change that. Yeah, he'll have to change it at some point. He'll if he ever gets into the playoffs deep, he'll get the Ross Chastain treatment that Ross Chastain got this year. They'll make him clean it up. Mr. Burger, I'm not Filipino. I am Inupiat Eskimo and Pennsylvania Dutch, living my last days in West Texas. So glad to have met you on the tube, sir. I appreciate it, Uncle Bones. I'm glad to have met you too, man. Aldis, don't mess with my Iowa track. So Mark Barnum doesn't want any changes made to his Iowa track. What's more phony than baloney, says RJ Bansma. I don't know, man. Mark Wachowski, I will get a hold of you. I have some cool old NASCAR stuff from Smokey Eunuch up in time, and to give it a new carrying home. Well, I'll appreciate it, man. If you send it, I'll try to put it up in here. I have a PO box, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So I might throw the PO box up here one day. Just for anybody that wants to send anything. Don't feel like you need to send anything. But that's another thing I check like literally once a month, and they're probably cheesed off that I haven't checked it because all the political stuff that they probably jammed in there. So I probably need to go check it for this month. Aldis says stage racing in the playoffs make drivers race like idiots at plate tracks and road courses. I agree with you. There's no way around it. That's 100% accurate. Drop the Chicago street course. We don't need it. Yeah, I agree, and rotate Chicago with something else. Delmore Kaufman, Terry L. Only has 21 wins. Terry Labonte only has 21 wins, but 2 championships. I would take that over 60 wins. Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree with that. Championships, especially back in that day, trump everything. I think Stewart needs to talk to Chase about that because he's not a good look for his company that he has a driver that races like a jackass most of the time. When he's in the lead, and that needs to stop. Well, he had the same conversation with Ricky Stenhouse when Ricky Stenhouse drove dirt for him. So I don't know how effective it'll be because it obviously hasn't changed Stenhouse. So that's the big thing with Chase Briscoe. Will he be another Ricky Stenhouse, or will he mature and learn when to take those risks and when not to? I'm hard on Chase Briscoe and the way he drives because I care. I see massive talent there, but he needs to refine his craft and stop acting like a jackass on the track most of the time. I agree with you. He drives. He's got a kamikaze style, and he definitely needs to fix that. And yeah, if he fixes that and gets more consistent, I think he'll be happy with the results. I think he'll actually get more wins, not driving insane kamikaze style, and I think that would be good. We're going to end the poll here as well because I almost forgot about it. And the poll ends up being 61% Old Hickory, 38% No Neck for Cale Yarborough. So the better nickname is Old Hickory. Old Hickory, Cale Yarborough wins that one. Mark Wachowski says, who will have a conversation with Smoke about his style of driving? That is a fair point. He never changed his style of driving either. That's why I think even when he has conversations with him, it won't be a super don't drive like this because he knows he drove like that as well. He just was more intelligent and picked his spots when he used his bumper. We'll put it that way. This 670 package with this Gen 7 car ruins short tracks and road courses. 900 horsepower, 800 naturally aspirated, 100 plus 100 with the electric when they go to the hybrid everywhere, and a 3.5-inch spoiler and symmetrical body at road courses and short tracks. I agree with that. They definitely need to shorten the spoiler, and more horsepower is going to give you tire fall off. So I agree with that 100%. Agreed, he needs to refine it. He is no Kyle Larson at all, says Uncle Bones, and I agree with that 100%. But then again, who is Kyle Larson? The smart money is always on young money. And with that, we're going to end this one. I appreciate all you guys. It was fun. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And until the next one, peace.